It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live.
Live.
Wild Earth takes you on daily intimate experiences in nature live.
This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
Join expert guides as they search for Africa's most iconic animals.
How awesome is this? She's coming right past our vehicle. Take a closer look here.
Oh, careful. Oh, no.
Ask your host questions and have them answered in real time. Join us live every day on Wild Earth. This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jumbo, everyone. A very good afternoon. My name is Isaac, and we're here in the Masai Mara. To start with, we have 2 female lionesses, and all I can ask you is welcome to your afternoon live safari. Well, time to start our afternoon. We are here on location. My aim this afternoon is to stick around this area. I was looking for lionesses and I have found them, so I'm gonna stick around here for a little bit. My name is Isaac, and on camera I have one and only Bungei. Our mission today is to stick here and maybe go to the marsh, see if we can find some elephants for you guys. Remember to talk to us on #WildEarth. You can also send in your kids' question at Wild Earth TV. Our weather for this afternoon is 30 degrees Celsius, and that is very hot for us here. And remember, I'm joined in by my colleagues in other different locations who will be introducing themselves shortly. These are the River Pride lionesses, believe me, and they're quite far away from where we last saw them about 3 days ago. This morning, after our morning show, on my way back, heading to camp, driving very fast, trying to go and get my breakfast, we found them on the track, heading towards a very different location where it's owned by the Olololo Pride area. And they came, we left them, they were very close to killing, and we just came back and found out that they made a kill. They are in somebody else's territory, so this is quite dangerous. Look at how much they have devoured of that carcass. They have eaten a lot of it, and I think this is forcing themselves to eat as much as possible because they know they have to leave this area as soon. Rosaline, Jumbo, and a very good afternoon. You want to find out how many lions we have in this pride? Well, so far we know of 4 lionesses and 1 male and about 4 cubs. So that is the structure that we know, but we keep seeing single ones that broke away from this pride. We don't know if they're going to join back the pride in the next coming months when all the wildebeest are gone, and a team effort will be needed so that they can bring bigger animals down. So we don't know if they're going to come back, but at the moment it's 4, 4, and 1. I say 1 because I know Blondie is the father to those cubs that were born, and so and so, I'm counting him only. We do have quite new males. We have Bob Marley, aka, we have Split Nose, aka Bob Marley. We have Olalashe and his brother. So, we do have quite a lot of males. Well, I'm going to stick here for a little bit longer. Let's take you to another live location.
Good afternoon and welcome to the other side of the Mara. We have two zebras rubbing and scratching off. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. Now these two zebras are actually scratching off some ticks and some biting mites that are on their skin. So they use rubbing these terms as rubbing post quite often. And actually interesting that the zebra to the closest to us has narrower stripes and very dark stripes compared to the other one. Now these stripes are like our fingerprints, so each and every zebra has a different pattern. But then this one is so unique such that look at the markings there, very dark, very narrow as compared to the other zebras. Look at the other zebra just behind there. The markings are actually kind of different or thick. So these stumps are used as rubbing posts by other animals as well. Sometimes buffaloes, sometimes warthogs, elephants. Let's turn round. See, the patterns are actually super different. Very, very nice markings there. Zebras are always colorful, and these are one of the most colorful and most seen or most conspicuous animals that we have out here in the wild. Easily recognizable. See lots of wildebeest resting. I've come this direction because these herds are walking towards the Mara River, which is not far from here. You can see taupees over in the distance. So I'm assuming they might want to cross because they've walked further away from the Ololo escarpment. We have split up between these herds. Some went towards the main crossing and some have come to this crossing, which is not far from here. Oh, he's got a scratchy neck, getting rid of ticks. Levi, thank you for your question. In a dazzle or a zeal of zebra, you have a stallion who is dominant and he controls about 11 to 12 mares. So even though they mix up and walk in a very big group, then these stallions are dominant to their respective mares. So those mares stay to hang around together, and sometimes you find stallions clash between themselves, and the emerging winner takes over that entire group or herd. So yes, there's a hierarchy where the stallions lead. So I'm going to hang around here for a little while as I send you over to another live location.
Good afternoon. We're doing a bit of birding here on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park, and if I'm not mistaken very much, we're looking at a shrike species, and that particular shrike species I can't see it clearly, is either a brew or it is a puffback. It's a black-backed puffback is what that one is. A black-backed puffback, and it goes like this. I think I'm the best black-backed puffback call maker in all the world, other than, of course, all the black-backed puffbacks. That's a lot of words to say. My name is James Hendry. Hello. On camera today is... he's wearing a sort of strange hoodie thing to protect him from the sun. Let's see if our black-backed puffback is still up there. Try and say black-backed puffback fast 3 or 4 times, and you shall struggle. And it's up top right there, Paul. Very top of the tree, right, other right. Up. Yeah, it's gone. Okay, well, that's all right. We'll see if we can find... Have you got him there? No, I think he has gone. We'll see if we can find some other stuff. Our plan is going to be to go and perhaps find some tracks of Tundi the leopardess. She was around here again this morning. And if we're lucky, we'll find her. And if we're really lucky, we'll find her on a very unlucky carcass, perhaps. And maybe even with her young son, who we spent a lovely afternoon with yesterday.
Well, one of the lionesses has decided that she has to quench her thirst, and when lions drink, they can drink for very long. And the main reason is they lap the water, so they don't always get too much into the mouth, and that is the best position for lions to drink. It's like they are sleeping because they take a very long time to drink. And you can see she's lapping. That's very clean water, compared to what, I've seen them taking. Water is not always... I don't know if you can hear the lapping. Yeah, water is not always in their mind, and mostly when they find it, they drink it, but they can go for quite a long time without drinking because they compensate all the water with sometimes the blood they drink from the animals. But when there is water, there is a chance to drink. Lions will drink. All those flies are on their face because they can smell the smell of blood and the moistness of the blood, and that's what they're trying to feed on. They can be very annoying, believe me, when they land on your face, or they land on you, you feel like they have 60 legs on you. Very annoying. So I'm gonna let you enjoy the sound of the lapping a little bit more.
Hello everybody. Look at this almost silhouetted giraffe bull that we've got here. He's very interested in us, giving us quite a stare, but at least he stuck around so that you can see him too. It's really lovely and warm and sunny here on Jume Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. Hi everyone, it's me Trishala, and I've got BK on camera with me this afternoon. Thank you, BK. And we are enjoying ourselves in the sun. It's so nice to be lovely and warm and not to feel a chill at all. And this lovely bull is, I think, also feeling that, although he might feel a little bit warmer. So he's going to go down to the water at some point, I think. He's not too far from Treehouse Dam. And you can see he's got an oxpecker friend there too. cleaning, 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 looking for any parasites that they can eat. But mostly they're after some blood. Thank you, everybody. Everyone's wishing me a happy birthday. Thank you so much. I've had a wonderful day spending it with some of my favorite animals. And I'm hoping that somebody very special will show up today, and that's Tingana. There were tracks of a male leopard in the west, the northwest, and that's where I want to focus today. See if we can follow up on those tracks. It always seems that towards the end of my stint, Tingana shows up. So let's hope that trend continues and we can find our lovely leopard.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to And Beyond Ngwala. It's a happy birthday to Chashala. Thank you for sending the camera this way. So as you can see here, you're with myself, Sean. We got the OD behind the camera. We are currently looking at this beautiful young male elephant. So we got here just after he left a waterhole. So we're down in the sort of southwestern part of And Beyond Ngwala. This waterhole's put up a lot in the range, just a small little pan, but enough obviously for this young guy. You can see the dark patches around there when the sun moves. You can see a little bit of dried mud. Look at his tusks there, a little bit of mud on them. Now he's just feeding in the shade here. If you watch carefully, he's eating a lot of the grass right around that tree where he had there. That grass is a little bit longer, a little bit greener. It's had a bit more shade than the grass around. A bit more nutritious, a bit more moisture in it for him. We were trying to decide how old he is. I mean, if you have a look there at his size, he's not too tall. When you look at that tree compared to the tree, he's not very big. His tusks.
She has left our scene of drinking and she's headed out back towards her sister, who will come into view shortly. Yes, she has reached where her sister is, and Bungei is gonna do his magic to show you where she is. And she has reached there. I don't know if she's gonna, get in and dig in. It looks like that's what she's going to do. But since they're in somebody else's territory, I don't think they want to waste much time, because soon or later, the owners of this territory, who are the Olololo Pride, might decide to come hunting, because this is a prime estate. This is a very, highly priced area. Joy, we have about 6 prides in the Mara Triangle. We rarely get to see more than 5, but 4 of them are very, very commonly seen, namely the Owinos, the Olololo Pride, the River Pride, the Mugoro Pride, and then we have the Sausage Tree Pride, which we haven't seen for quite a while. We have the Salt Lake Pride, and then we have the Bridge Pride, which is quite a long way. We rarely get there. But, those are the prides we commonly see. Of course, new prides are always being formed, but at the moment we haven't seen any prides being formed. But those are our prides. Look at how she was taught well, not to play with food, eating as much as possible. A fully grown wildebeest weighs up to 200, 300 kilos, and you can tell how much they have devoured. These girls are serious with eating. You know, one girl can consume about 40 kilograms of meat in one sitting, and here, definitely, I think they have eaten that with ease. You know, lion bellies are almost like elastic. The more they eat, the more it expands and creates space. And believe me, this is a lion, never wastes food. I've seen a lion that ate so much. It ate so much. Yeah, my lion ate so much, it was uncomfortable. Chick, you asked me how old are the two lionesses? Well, about 6 years. They look about 6 years, still in their prime. This is when they are really like good hunters. They are really good mothers, and at the same time, very good pride members. Apart from lions, I do have elephants with me close by, and even far, that's a young bull. He's enjoying a little bit of grass. He's pulling the grass from the inside of the shrub. That's how textile the trunk is. It can smell and pick up precisely exactly what it wants through a very thick bush, and you can tell he's not eating everything. Back to our lions. Let's see what's here, what's happening. Yes, and the lion I was telling you about, it had eaten so much, it was tried to lie in different angles on its belly. It was too difficult. Lied on its back, wasn't comfortable. Lied on the side, neither didn't help. Eventually, it had to move away slightly and regurgitate or throw away a bit of meat to make space so that it could breathe and sleep well. So that's how they don't play with food. With, dead meat or lions feeding comes scavengers, and they come in all, different types. And here we have the vulture. Looks like the African whiteback vulture. This is a bird that is very patient, because I don't know when they arrived here, but they did land. They have landed here. They will wait, even if it's a night, until the lion leaves, so that they can have their fair share of the carcass. There we have the Ruppel's griffon, far right and far left. Then the three are African white-backed vultures. These birds are scavengers. One of the main reasons is that they lost the power to grip with their claws or talons, so they cannot grip anything properly to try and cut it. So they only can feed on something that's dead using their beaks to rip off the meat. They're very important in these cases and in these plains, because they have to get rid of all leftovers. Otherwise, we'll have very smelly plains. Very smelly. These girls are into it, and they have eaten quite a lot of meat, a lot of it, as you can see.
Our wildebeest here are resting. It seems like they've used an airstrip for the rest. See, lots of them had gone to the river, but they've decided to come back. So I think they will change course and go to a different crossing point, because overlooking to where they were heading, I'd come here to check if they're going to cross the river, but it seems like they're not determined to do the crossing from that point. So you can see some of them are walking back. So this... What a lovely sound. such an interesting sound, and how they're resting and walking. But some of the big herds have taken turn and walked back to the escarpment, and some are heading over back to Tanzania. See some zebras over in the distance leading the way. But I'm sure maybe they might have come here because of grazing, because this area has not been grazed for a little while after the rains. So because of the movement and the distribution of rain, so this will also be attracted to come to this area. What an interactive way to come and watch this wildebeest over here.
Here we've got a spectacular sighting of a hippopotamus. As you can see, really one of the best hippopotamus sightings I think we've ever experienced. Oh, look at that. We've now got 2 ears and 1 eye and 2 nostrils and 2 more nostrils. Will the excitement ever cease? And it's a wonder that Mpho can keep the camera still. So excited is he right now. He's quivering all over with excitement at this rare sighting of now, well, 1.5 eyes and an ear. Sure. And 2 more nostrils. Oh, look at that. More nostrils, more ears, more eyes. An uncountable number of facial orifice that have come to the surface on the heads of hippopotami, and then they disappear again. Well, why wouldn't they? I mean, if they were in view all the time, it would be far too exciting, and everyone would have a heart attack. We also have a little group of terrapins that are gathered on the bank opposite. I know that it's going to be difficult to tear your eyes away from the hippos, but let us go to the terrapins, which should be serrated hinged terrapins. They are the ones that live in the larger bodies of water, and I in fact have found an expired serrated hinged terrapin here before. I wonder if that is a mummy and her babies. Not that there's any, perhaps that is an adult and some youngsters, but I'm not sure. Astounding.
Well, they haven't stopped since you left me from eating. They're still doing what they do best. Look at her cut that skin to expose extra meat that she really wants to get to. A situation like today's happens when our pride's territory has run out of game, and so they sneak into their neighbors for just a very short time and make a kill, eat and leave. They properly utilize that time, and part of what they're doing now is exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Pat Jumbo, you asked me what is my favorite pride. That is a very good question, because I love all these lions, but I still say that the Olololo breakaway of the 4 males and 1 female is still my favorite, because they're going to be a power to reckon in the next coming years, and they're just coming up. That is going to be one of the best prides I think we're going to have here. Well, the main reason is that they were born here, they know this area, and they deserve to be here. So I think the Olololo breakaway of the 4 young males and a lioness is my favorite. And the other thing that makes them really my favorite is they are mastering how to bring down buffalo. So they're not always going down for the faint-hearted like the wildebeest, the warthog, and the zebra. They are going for the big and angry and dangerous. So, I like them for that reason. Thank you for exposing the inside of the ribcage. You can tell that what she's feeding on is the brisket, the middle of the rib cage where it joins. Usually that is very fatty, that is got a lot of steak, and that's what she's exposing, that's what she's trying to eat. After opening up that, she's able to get to the inside and actually spread like the ribs wide apart, but that's what she's feeding on at the moment. There is a lot of meat in there. This is a fully grown wildebeest, and they have eaten a lot of it, and it's unbelievable how much they've eaten. Yeah, I'm just gonna stick here.
This wildebeest is a little more active than the one that you guys have been watching, and everything has got a shady spot. Oh, oryx has now decided to get up as well, Glenn. We had an oryx under the tree for a bit of shade. We had the wildebeest and as well as black-backed jackal. Good afternoon. Hello, welcome. My name is Carl. Welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. Behind camera is Mr. Glenn. Hello, Glenn. Hello. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. A cooker of a day today. You can see this wildebeest over here under the shade over there, life-giving support right now. It's about 34 degrees Celsius, so summer is coming on with full force. That's about 94 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is cooking. We are cooking with gas today, but that's okay. The animals will be a little bit static for the next hour or so, and then we should have good movement. This is obviously typical behavior of animals in the dry regions. You take it easy through the midday, hotter sections, and then becoming a little more active once it gets a bit cooler. Yeah, our nice little cooler box with cold drinks on ice, and our air con going over here, and my little hand fan that Glenn is operating to keep me cool is just perfect. But really nice to see behavioral traits like it, where animals will have an ebb and a flow. So now when it's hotter, you just can't be out here. You can't be eating and grazing and doing your thing. So they choose to find a nice shady spot, and through that time period, this is where these animals will digest the material that they collected early this morning. We're going to send you off from this very warm place to another amazing location. We'll see you later.
Well, these girls are no, joke with food. As you can see, they are still getting on it. It is necessary for them to do this because with young ones, they need to suckle, they need to give them that much needed nutritional milk, especially the first few months. The calves are heading towards 3 months, so they need a lot of milk, and with them feeding like this, it guarantees that the calves are going to live longer. Sometimes it is not guaranteed that they will actually make it in life, because mortality rate is still very high before calves reach the age of about 2. It is said that if a female leaves the cubs and travels more than 5 kilometers away from the cubs, she might not come back, and so she will leave them to starve. Rachie, how fast can a lion run? Well, they can catch top speeds, full speed, and depends, how fit they are, but a nice, sleek female hasn't eaten stalking something, bursts to get it at around, 20 feet before it gets it. It can catch-top speed of about 55 to 60 kilometers an hour, but they cannot keep up with that kind of pace. They can only do it for about 50 to 100 meters. More than that, they will exhaust themselves and they're too heavy to keep going. So they only stop, make sure they're really close before pouncing and running to try and get to their prey. So 55 to 60 kilometers is how fast they can run. But most of these girls at their age, they're so experienced such that they stalk their prey so close before the animal realizes they're usually on top of it. So it makes their life easy. And the technique they use is jump on top of it, hook your claws deep onto the animal, and use your way to wrestle it to one side of the animal. You swing either left or right, and the animal just drops and then climb very quickly towards the windpipe or the trachea and just hold it there.
We are driving about in the west, like I said we would, and we're looking at any spots of shade, and of course looking for tracks for this male leopard. It could be two leopards, it could be Tingana, which is what well, it's hard to say I'm hoping for, because I love them both so much, Tingana or Hukumuri, because the tracks were coming from the west, but Tingana was seen around that area, so it could be either one of them, even though he prefers the north. I haven't seen Hukumuri for a long, long time, so I'd love to be able to see him. So whoever it is, I will be thoroughly happy. The bush has gotten so green, don't you agree? Green grass everywhere. Leaves are popping out. That looks very, very nice. Well, we're going to keep on driving about. Like I said, keeping an eye out in the shady spots and for tracks.
Well, we have the scavengers. We have decided to share them with you a little bit. These guys are very patient, and as I said, they play a very big role and vital role that we need them out here for the whole ecosystem to fully and function properly. They are on the brink of extinction because they have been poisoned. Mainly, it's not directed to them, but what they eat has been killed by poison, either from farmers, trying to kill something in their farms, and then the poison gets, it's that what we call the ripple effect. It kills a hyena is killed by the vultures, and it goes on like that. At the moment, the current population is just less than 20,000, and it's actually decreasing. So the Ruppel's griffon vulture is one of the few vultures that is also facing extinction. The African whiteback is the most common, and also, I don't know its population. I haven't updated myself, but it's also of another one that's facing extinction. I don't know if we have, do we have, no, we just have the two. And if they are birds with, patience, it is vultures. I don't know how long they've been here, but they are determined to eat, and so they will stay here for as much as they can. Some of these vultures that we have here in the Masai Mara and in the migration time. Nigel, did you say can eagle eat wildebeest and buffalo? Yes, they are birds of prey, and both of the... Oh, sorry. Can humans eat wildebeest? Of course, yes. yes, you can eat it. I understand it's very delicious. Yeah, it can be eaten. You know, some people in parts of the Mara that borders the reserve, we have tribes that live there, and they're so isolated. Sometimes they'll put traps to trap, you know, these wildebeest. When they come, they're called snares, and they eat them as food. So yes, of course, you can eat them, but it is not legal, and you're not allowed to eat any game in Kenya. In fact, nothing is allowed to be hunted or killed in Kenya, so you cannot eat them. But yes, if permission was given, I hope not, I'm sure I'll go for it. I'll go for a taste. Yes, a repositioning maybe, or she's going for a bit of shade. It is typical for them to do this, eat a little bit, and then, you know, go have a break, let it digest slightly, and then come back. And this is a very rushed meal, according to me and my experience, because normally they wouldn't eat in the heat of the day like right now, but because that they know that they have trespassed and consequences could be very dire, they need to, you know, eat as fast as possible. So in case of anything, at least they can get away with something on their bellies. She hasn't started cleaning herself, so definitely she hasn't had enough. Yeah, look at that female pulling that carcass. It's just, you know, sheer power. She's moving towards the shade. Very smart. Yeah, that is better, girl. Yeah, that's how strong they are. She gonna go hide it? Look at that. Yeah, she's just hidden it completely inside that shrub. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna continue being here, just in case of anything. We'll let you know. Let's take you to another live safari vehicle.
From the lions to the baboons, who seems like they're foraging, just came from the Mara River where they were drinking. So baboons will drink about 2 times in a day, but sometimes when there is no foliage or no water, they walk to a long distance. They can walk up to 4, 5, up to 20 kilometers from their roosting home range. So this is a typical time where they will come to drink water because it's a little bit cool. No animal present out in the river. Actually, they fall prey to leopards, and sometimes they have to be very careful whenever they come to drink. So the big alpha males will be vigilant or sentinel next to some termite mounds, the trees, to check or watch over the rest of the troop. Baboons are super interesting when you're watching them play, when you watch them interact with other animals. This morning we had a nice interaction where we had baboons and some impalas. So slowly they'll start walking back to their respective place where they will roost for the night. And sometimes the reason why they go early is because if they are going back, maybe a leopard might have seek refuge in their tree, their roosting tree, or maybe has a kill. So they need to seek another tree from this home range. So within that home range, they have selective trees where they roost for the night, where they also have rocks and crevices where they actually roost for the night, where they settle, where they are far away from predators. Sometimes the alphas are the ones who will be leading, sometimes the ones who will be last. See that one there? He's actually the last one to join the troop. And off they go. This is Mom. Thank you for your comment. I agree with you. Very, very interesting as well. So here at the Mara River, we have lots of activity that have been happening here. This is one of the major crossing that we always come here to see the wildebeest and zebra cross either to the other side or vice versa. There are lots of hippos. We also have a territory where leopards will overlap. So we have Romy and we have another leopard that comes to this area. You can hear the hippos puffing off. Hear the sounds of baboons fighting. You can see the soil erosion from water, and actually when this river fills, how the water levels have been eroding the banks. You can see the outer layer, you can see the layer of the soil there. But good thing we have those trees that have very big roots that hold up these banks, and if you're not for these trees, then we'll be losing this river. But we have some places where it's almost forming an oxbow. Those people who fly over the Mara in a balloon ride, they get to see how the Mara River meanders through this reserve, almost forming some oxbow lakes. It's quite chilly here, it's quite quiet. Our baboons have gone, the hippos are relaxed. So I'm going to carry on to find more game. I'm still on my mission to find Romy the leopard. So this is her territory. I'll be driving along the river, along the forest, in search of her. You can see this area has been grazed by hippo. That's why we have very short grass. That's evident hippo use this area as a grazing ground. Well, it looks like there's a little bit of TLC that has to happen. That is the short break they have taken to do so. So show some love to one another. And it's usually much easier to clean one another than clean yourself. Their sticky tongue, that's almost, I call it rough as, sandpaper number 6, can lick off that blood and smell within a very short time, unlike just licking your paws and then rubbing the blood off yourself. It takes much longer. So they have just done that, and looks like as soon as I started talking about it, they've decided to have a break. The tongue of a lion is so rough, if it was to lick a human, it will just peel the skin off. I know many of you have been licked by a cat. You do have a kitty cat as a pet. And when it licks you, you can imagine how rough you feel, how sore you feel on your skin. Just imagine now, multiply that by 10 times. That's how rough a lion tongue is. Looks like it is break time completely. They have hidden the carcass. It's very close to them. That was very smart. And now it's time for a break. I think they're going to dig on into it for the second time once they decide. And then after that, they're going to leave. And I will be here to see that, because I really like to see where they go. And maybe they'll show me the cubs.
Well, it seems as though our luck is changing here at Pridelands because we have a colony of mongoose that are just enjoying the sun. As are Sebastian and I'm trying to not scare the mongoose. My name is McCurdy, and with me today is Sebastian. There he is. And like I said, we're here at Pridelands, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve. But this colony of dwarf mongoose are really, really interested in us. Sorry for all twisting and turning. With these smaller creatures, you actually have to move very... well, not at all, in fact. They didn't like that when I shuffled about, but luckily they're relaxing quite quickly. But there we go. Now, it's quite a big colony. They're all very, very busy. And when we first arrived, they were all out on the road interacting with a hornbill. They have a nice symbiotic relationship between the two different species. But now they're just sort of foraging around in this termite mound underneath this lovely tree. That one is just sitting right up top, probably keeping an eye out for any kinds of predators. GP, well, I wouldn't quite say that the dry season is completely over. We've just been very fortunate enough to have rains on time for a change. We've unfortunately for the last few years had quite late rains, which resulted in a prolonged dry period. We were also coming out of a drought. It was quite bad in 2014, 15, 16, 17 we got some rain, and then 2018 last year were much better, and this year is fantastic. And the people that decide what happens with the weather have predicted heavy rains for the next 3 months. So I think this is just the start of it. But you won't believe how quickly the vegetation recovers. So that's why you can see all the grass sprouting through and all the nice new leaves. But look at those mongoose. Are they up there, Seb? Have you got one? They were quite funny. There were quite a few youngsters in here. Quite a few pups is what we call the young mongoose. There we go. There's a little head. That looks like a little one there. And they're exploring. And they're clambering around on the log. Now, normally, dwarf mongoose spend most of their time on the ground. So you'll very rarely, actually, I don't think I've ever seen a dwarf mongoose right in the tops of a branch of the tree. But they are fairly good climbers. They've got very sharp claws, so they are able to hold on to the bark of tree. And I've seen them up a few meters. And this one, of course, is just a tree that has fallen down. And I think that there's probably lots of little things that they're trying to feed on in there, from boring beetles to perhaps scorpions that are hiding away. Where have they all gone now? Oh, out you come. They're not quite done with foraging for the day. They've still got lots and lots of time ahead of them. There's one, I think it's up here somewhere. I can just see some heads bobbling right at the back though, but quite far in. There we go. So I think we might just spend a little bit of time with them, because I don't know this colony of mongoose, and something that all safari guides are quite fond of is spending time with the same individuals so that they start to get used to us.
I'm having such a peaceful time here with this little kinship group of zebras, specifically those two that are snoozing on the road. Now, we're often asked, why do they stand
Well, we have left our scene of lion eating, and not very far from them we came across this beautiful herd of elephant that is happy doing what they do best. Yes, I know this herd. They have a matriarch who's got one tusk, and she is far left. You can see her over there, and she has not been very friendly, so I know her that way. Every time she approaches this car, I've always seen her change her behavior, so I'm always very careful. I've kept her quite a distance, from them, so I don't seem to be intruding on the privacy. And they're at peace, as you can see, quite happy. Everybody's munching. Cattle egrets, taking advantage of whatever the elephants are disturbing. Yeah, look at the elephant skin. Elephant skin is very, very rough. Holy moly, I was just thinking of telling you about the skin. Okay, how thick is elephant skin? Yes, at the back and at the forehead, the elephant skin is very thick, but at the back, at the anus, the underbelly, and around the ears, it's not as thick. At the back there, it's around 2.5 centimeters, almost an inch. And it's basically gray, but it differs, the elephant, differs in color depending on where you find them. If they are in places where there is really like sandy soil, then you'll find them, they're more gray. If they're in a very red area, red soil area, then they'll become very red. And over here we have clay soil or the black cotton soil, so they're very, very dark because they wallow or they add a layer onto their skin that helps reduce the glare of sun, acts like sunblock, and also they can lose lots of water, so the addition helps them not lose too much water. So that is how thick the elephant skin is. When an elephant dies and you come across the skin, it is almost as hard as wood. The only animal that usually feeds on that is the hyena, and because they have very, very strong jaws, almost 1,200 pressure per square inch, PSI, that's how strong it is. That is super strong. These guys, you can see they're fanning their ears, like that guy there in the middle is a young male. The reason is to cool off. I know you know this, but the ears contain vessels or veins that all the flow of blood goes through there. This guy we are looking at there, I think they're almost a foot. That is a foot, I would say. From the skin to the tip, a foot, but then going deep inside, I would say almost 2.5 feet. Almost inside to the skull, it's 2.5 feet. But they differ. The longest ever tusks recorded were about 11 feet. 11 feet, that is almost 3 1/4 meters. That was the record recorded of the longest tusks, and they weighed over 50 kilos each, so they can grow very long. Of course, nowadays it is almost impossible to come across elephants with such long tusks, but they will make a comeback because mankind has decided that elephants will have to leave, so they're making a comeback. That is a youngster. I don't know what he was doing there. Looks like he was doing something naughty because he just came out. Looks like he's a boy, definitely. And quickly he has to go to mom for insurance. Yeah, elephants are very protective, and related sisters always act as aunties. We call them allo aunties. And usually if a youngster like that makes distress noise, everybody usually heads to her direction and protects him, and they protect him with all their might and power. You don't want to be close to them because you are at the threat if they don't know who was threatening them, and so they can be very, very dangerous if you're not careful and be there.
Now I can get on with my in-depth discussion of the zebra. I don't know how much you got of my last dissertation on why they are standing like they are, head to bottom, as it were. That is classic. That's going to make me yawn. Yeah, it is. Sorry about that. Right, so I was saying, yes, there must be a security benefit from standing like that, head to bottom. But having looked at them now for a couple of minutes, I think that what's going on there is that it's also a protection from flies. So you'll notice that the tails are swishing side to side all the time. And I think what that's doing is keeping the flies off the faces. Because all the time when you watch them, there's a foot stamping or a bit of skin shaking, or the tail's going. And the skin on the face, of course, they should sort of shiver and get rid of the flies with, and so I think that's what they're doing. It was, Gina, you are speaking the absolute truth. It was very kind of the zebras to remain in exactly the correct position, in exactly the same position for so long. Because normally the animals aren't here subliminally that we're about to go live, and then they pretend that they weren't doing what they were doing. And everyone is now yawning as well. Good, I'm glad. That means that you either care about the zebra or about me, I'm not sure which. But apparently, if you see somebody or something yawn and you don't care about that thing, you won't yawn as well. So let that be a lesson to any of you who are married. If your spouse yawns, you must at least fake a yawn. Otherwise, you will have a problem, because they will realize that, there's certainly a school of thought that says you don't care about them as much as you maybe pretend to or think you do. Just to be clear, don't think that you should give too much credence to anything I've said about that. Good. My wife is directing this afternoon. She says she just yawned. I will choose to believe her. Oh, my wife didn't yawn. Oh, great. Okay. Well, there it is. So much for absence makes the heart grow fonder, etc. Out of sight and out of mind, she says. Thank you. Well, I shall go home tomorrow and see if I can make her start yawning again. They're now having a little graze, the two friends. And I think what we'll do from here is head down towards Tswalu Dam, which is a dam on the reserve to the south of Djuma, and see if we can find some action going on there.
So here we come across a herd of toppies, and you can see some of them are lying down on the grass. Those are the young ones. And sometimes their mothers will walk away to graze where they leave these young ones hidden in the long grasses, and then they'll come back later where they come to nurse them. So this social group sometimes depends on the weather pattern also, because we have some that migrate, some that are residents, and these numbers sometimes increase or decrease. So this is like a nursery where we have lots of young ones here. So it seems like everyone is taking care of a calf. Interestingly, they're not as social like other animals, like let's say the elephant or maybe lions, because they will not take turn to take care of each and everyone's or any other one's calf. So they only will nurse their calves, and if another calf comes or approaches a different mother, they'll always be rejected. So these calves are about a month old, so they're actually in a good stage where they can outrun predators. So this is a very nice scene here. We're going to stay here as I send you over to another live location.
We might have to reposition in just a moment, but finally our back seems to be turning, and I cannot tell you, I know I've said that twice today, but I honestly am thrilled because it's been extremely quiet. Hey, Sebastian. But this is an elephant. I feel like I need to just state the obvious there because I, in fact, forgot what elephants actually look like, and it's an elephant that we see every now and then. His name is Dex, but now he's hiding behind the tree, so I'm going to play the reverse game very quickly. And, well, I'm obviously going to revert. I never know. See, my mirror, all the drama. I can't see. Let me go back. Seb, will you just let me know if there's a big tree in the way? I love reversing. It's my favorite thing, second favorite thing to do in the world. My first favorite thing is to brush my teeth, to go to the dentist. No, I'm not joking. That's the sad thing. Except maybe the scalp. But I feel like Mr. Dex is on the move today. Hi, boy. Why don't you want to be seen? And he has just had a complete mud bath at Buffalo Pan, which pretty much lies just to the southwest of us. That's so nice. I've been waiting for ages for that pool of water, or that pan just to fill up again. But now that there's so much water around, I think once the little puddles dry up, it's going to be very, very popular with the elephants and the buffalo. Move over in Ndlovu Dam. Buffalo Pan is here. So anyway, so there he goes, munching on all the twigs, walking around. I wonder where Gap is, because this elephant, Dex, and another big elephant, he's got really big tusks. Not quite Ezelweenie-sized tusks, but they like to stick together, so maybe you'll see him. Jackson, you've inquired whether their tusks continue to grow all their life. And the answer to that is, while I reverse, is yes, and so does an elephant. An elephant doesn't stop growing either. Obviously, the growth rate of an elephant slows down as they start to get much older because they aren't able to... You know what, we're going to go forward because there were more elephants. Hi, Dex. Thanks for showing up. Elephants Live will be very happy that we got to see him. But as they obviously start to get older, they're not able to eat as much and not putting all that nutrition back into their bodies. So you can imagine that all those types of things start to slow down. But he's not a very old bull. They think he's in his early 20s, so he's quite substantial in size, but he's still got a lot of growing to do. A Kumo will dwarf him, or that elephant bull that we saw yesterday with the rather large tusks. There's another elephant just up ahead in case you're worried. And he'll even be bigger than that elephant. What you doing? Are you in the water? Oh, we're going to have a mud bathing elephant now. Hopefully my signal plays ball. Now I've just got to sneak past this little acacia tree. Hi, boy. There we go. That's a nice little view. And I reckon this elephant's going to stand still for a bit longer than what Dex was doing. Have you just created this new mud wallow? Looks like it. Doesn't look like anything was here before. Oh, doing a little dance, saying, yes, Taylor, I just made this. Or perhaps a warthog created it. None of the elephants want to stick around. Where are you all going? We're going to lose him too. There's just a bachelor group here that's moving about. And they are now heading west. I don't know what's so great about going west today, except that I think there's a song here by Pet Shop Boys. Is it Pet Shop Boys? Go west, dun 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 dun. Is that me showing my age? And the only reason why I know that song is because when I was a child, I was very lucky. We had a dance mat, and that was one of the songs on... That was indeed one of the songs we had to dance to. I don't know how to show you more elephants. Why, Sebastian? Sorry, Seb. This is not great. They're not participating. Seb has now done a deep sigh, aimed at the elephants, though. Hey, Sebastian, not me. Not my terrible positioning. That's what I'm going to just tell myself anyways. But there they all go. So I'm still keeping an eye out for Gap, the elephant, who is enormous. I don't know. Did you see Gap while you were with Mike, Seb? No. I haven't seen him in a while. You haven't seen him? Yeah, he's quite an enormous fellow. We tried to put him on screen a few times, but he doesn't like to cooperate. I think he's camera shy. But he might be in here amongst the rest of them. But not spending so much time here on feeding on one tree, just grabbing a few mouthfuls of leaves and then off the go. Off they go. Perhaps it's got something to do with all the tannins that are building up as these elephants browse on the trees.
From the elephants to our toppies who are still grazing, you can see the little ones on the road, and some are grazing, some are nursing. So this nursery will be isolating themselves from the main herds, where we have a mixture of males and females. So they will stay in close association with their mothers until maybe a year and a half, where they can be able to be strong and be able to fend for themselves. And maybe some will be dominant rams, where they'll be establishing their own territory. So toppy males will establish a territory where they, maybe one or more, will attract the females who come into what we call a lek. So a lek is when males will gather in a competitive display of courtship to entice females. So the females will walk into those leks, and the dominant rams sometimes kicks off, fights off the non-dominant or lower-ranking males out of the leks. But then the females are the one who choose who go into the middle or the center of the leks to find a mate. How interesting is that? You see, sometimes they have a very good display where they do knock their heads and have a rocking canter. Warren, thank you so much for your question. You'll see some formation of the black kind of bluish patch on their thigh when they're about 5 to 6 months old. That is when they start developing. And by the time they're 1 year old, it's already conspicuous. The markings can be seen. So I'll say about 4 to 5 months, it will start developing, and you'll be able to tell it's a toppy, because sometimes they get confused from a long distance to be young impalas. Seems like it's a peaceful afternoon for these toppies. I'll still carry on with my mission as we leave these toppies to graze. So as I carry on my mission, I'll send you over to another live location.
We're really on a roll today. Get it? Yes, we're looking at dung beetles, but now, of course, the one has taken a break in the shade. Hey, Seb, did you ever think that, you could use a pile of elephant dung to shade yourself? I didn't think that. But anyways, there is one there struggling. Looks like a plum-coloured dung beetle. That is not a plum-coloured. I think it's a copper dung beetle. That's just moving around in there. I don't think it quite knows what it's doing. I want to get out of the car so that I can shimmy some of the dung out of the way, but could have used a different word. That would have been great. The alliteration would have been good there. But what I've been finding so fascinating at the moment is look at all the tiny little flies that are catching a ride on that dung beetle's back. I'm not sure what kind of little midges they are. I don't think that they're attacking the dung beetle at all. I wonder if because the dung beetle covers itself in feces, that they may be getting the moisture off of its shell. I don't actually know. Oh, we're fine now. Are you ready for this? Someone else has come over and said, well, you've rolled that ball already. I'm just going to take yours and add it to mine. But the fella on the right is honestly not having any of it. No, he's retreated. Well, he's not pulled his, sorry, everybody. There we go. That's better. Are they, now I'm trying to think, no, maybe, are they even copper dung beetles? Are they plum-coloured dung beetles? They don't look very big, and the plum-coloured dung beetles are much smaller in size, and these look like they're probably about just smaller than the length of my index finger. Maybe not that, 5 centimetres or so. Dizzy, I'm surprised you haven't been seeing them in action, especially with all bushwalks at Djuma. Get those nice and sort of low angles of these creatures fighting. My favorite time for dung beetles is marula season. There's one that's come out into the sun. Seb on the right. No, come back. No, he's just gone behind the poop. There he is. There he still is over there. Anyways, because then there's just obviously so much elephant dung around, and there's so many beetles, and it's hot in February, March. It's such a nice time of the year, except when you, I suppose, have to do bushwalks too early, then it's a bit warm. But look at them. It's like that they've all drank an energy drink or two. Not making enormous balls. Sometimes you see dung beetles making incredibly large balls, like the size of that piece of elephant dung over there. And one of the funniest things, and I don't know if I've told you all, that I saw while I was up in Mashatu, I was on a bushwalk with some students, and this dung beetle rolled a ball in the shape of an egg and tried to roll it up a hill. That was obviously a disaster. It was the worst. Seb, look what we've got now. Now we've got an elephant. Hello? Please be careful where you walk, elephant, as there are some dung beetles here. And I know you don't like to squash things on purpose, but I've watched you squash many an animal. Tortoises, beetles, blacksmith lapwing chicks, you know. So this fella's probably going to join up with the rest of the bulls in a minute. But first, a quick snack. Delicious leaves. I actually don't know what tree that is that they're feeding on. I need to also grab a branch and have a look at it. It's the same tree that was growing out of the termite mound. They typically seem to grow out of the termite mound where the mongoose were that we had earlier. So I must have a look. I've forgotten what trees look like with leaves. It's strange. It's difficult now. I just got good at identifying them by their bark. That elephant was not impressed with that comment. Whatever, it's fine. I won't take it personally. But they all are tucking into it. I don't think it's one of the raisins. I don't think it's one of the grevias. It's not the grevia velosa, I don't think. No, those leaves look completely wrong. They're pulling big trunkfuls of leaves off. He's also had a bird bath, but I think he'll go back to the little pools that the other elephants have created and splash himself some more. He doesn't look like he's as damp as the others. But look at that skin. Or, elephant, if you could defecate right now so we could see which creatures come to your dung. Donovan, that's a great question about elephants stretching up and reaching, leaves up on the highest of trees. You've asked about what height. So I think it's going to depend on the size of the elephant, because obviously a 6-month-old baby elephant can barely reach anything, and they also can't use their trunks very well at that age. So let's say a big elephant bull like Dex, who we just saw with a collar. I mean, he's not enormous, but I reckon he's probably reaching about 6.5 meters, maybe even 7 meters up or so, somewhere around there. I would say is fair, maybe 6 meters, just over 6 meters, but I could be wrong. I don't exactly know how tall Dex is, but fairly high. Very, very high, in fact. Remember, they're the ones that give elephants giraffe a competition. But it's fascinating to see them use the technique where they stand on their back legs in Mana pools in the lower Zambezi Valley, or even in South Luangwa in Zambia, where they'll actually almost rear up. It's the most unbelievable thing, because you look at these elephant bulls that weigh 6 tons, and they're like ballerinas when they jump back up. There's some... Sorry, he just did a bit of a rumble. There's some great pictures on the social media of them doing that, and they're stretching up to reach up on the anna trees, and the anna trees are enormous. I mean, I actually don't know how tall an anna tree must get, but well over 30 or 40 meters. 30 meters? Maybe 30 meters. Maybe 40 meters is a bit big, but they're huge. They're so big. So for them to reach even the lower branches is quite something. So it's easy for them here. There always seems to be leaves on something. We've got close a few times with Kumo underneath that boerbean that's not too far away from here in Zebra Plains. He's stretched up a few times, and we thought he was going to jump up, but he didn't. Much disappointment there. Okay, bye, elephant. It's just the back of the vehicle. But we've still got the little dung beetles down on the ground that I will probably watch for just a little bit longer, because I'm hoping my favorite species of dung beetle, which is the spider dung beetle, will also make an appearance.
Now, we have been sitting here with 2 wading birds, and the reason we came or stopped here was not because of these wading birds, but because we caught 2 Egyptian geese in flagrante delicto. Unfortunately, they have gone away now, seeking privacy. Now, we're often confused by these wading birds because they are quite tricky to tell apart, especially if, like me, you are not very good at telling anything apart from anything similar to that thing that you're trying to tell apart from the other thing. So what that is there is a green shank. A green shank, and often when you see your first green shank or your first sandpiper of the season, because they are migratory, it's quite confusing. Certainly I find it so, because I have to remind myself what I'm looking at. And conveniently, right here, we've got a common sandpiper as well. If you go to the right there, Mpho, he's just sort of closer to us on this side. I bet he's behind that bush. For you. Keep going down, tilt down. Keep going, keep going, keep going. There he is. So there's the common sandpiper. And you won't be able to tell this from your screens, but he's quite a lot smaller than the green shank. He's got shorter legs, and most diagnostically, he stands behind trees all the time. No, that's not true. Most diagnostically is he's got those little sort of pectoral patches, a half moon onto his wings, if you can see there on his shoulders. So that's the common sandpiper, and the other one is a green shank. Good. Well, I'm glad we got that under our belts. There's a fearsome wind blowing over the water here at Chitwa Waterhole. Might quite like to take a windsurfer out in it, actually. One wasn't going to be savaged by crocodiles when one fell off. And he's just looking for little invertebrates. Would have arrived back in the last week or so. Maybe even yesterday, who knows. Now, most of these birds travel by night. They don't travel during the day, mainly to avoid predators and also to avoid overheating. So they travel at night, and they use the stars, a celestial compass, in order to travel. And remember what I said about the insects the other day, that in order to use a celestial compass or a sun compass, you've got to compensate for the movement of the stars or the sun, and to do that you've got to have some kind of internal clock, and these guys have a very accurate internal clock. And also, I mean, there's a lot about migration we don't know, but the only way to avoid that is if you've got something like Polaris or the North Star, around which the entire sky turns. So in the northern hemisphere you've got Polaris, which never changes position, and so then you don't need an internal clock, and that's why a lot of animals do move at night, we think.
Very important that you find a shady spot right now. So, looking at this scenery, nothing much, but if Glenn zooms in there for us, you're going to see something relaxed. And obviously with the cool of the shade, it's a perfect spot for it just to be resting. Taking it easy. So at last we have found, this is a hare, and I have a chance to redeem myself. I actually made a bit of a boo-boo, so for you, those of you that have been with us for a little while, when we did have the Cape here out west, I said it was the difference between a hare and rabbit. There was that one thing, and I said was the fur, which I'm sorry about, it's not correct. So this is a hare, specifically a Cape hare, which has a reddish tinge in comparison to our scrub hare that we find in South Africa. And these two species do overlap, and sometimes it can be quite tricky to actually identify them. So looking at this animal and looking at the differences between that of a hare and a rabbit, it's very easy. So if you're looking at hares, they are long-legged, they're fast runners, and then their young are born fully furred. And so at that time, they are mobile, and obviously their senses are very developed. So that will be the typical classification of a hare. Then if you look at rabbits, rabbits are less fleeting or less agile on their feet. They shelter in burrows, and then or under rocks. You can also find them under rocks. And then the young are born blind and as well as almost furless for the first few days. But then they'll be found within a fur-lined burrow. So hare on top of the ground, fleeting, very quick, young are developed and are very ready off the bat. And then with your rabbits, they are not so agile, they go underground, and then the young are fairly helpless in the first few weeks. So I'm very glad that we finally got to find a hare, and I got to redeem myself on my little boo-boo there. So I do apologize to everybody, but now we know. But this chapter is taking it easy, and look at this size of the ears. And if you take a look on the left-hand ear, you can see this very large vein. You can actually see the blood. That'll be the darker stripe running vertically through that ear. And these ears are used as a thermoregulatory function, so a lot of heat will be able to be dissipated from those magnificent large ears. We're going to leave this chap to be. We're going to carry on and find Mom and 3. We're going to send you off to another location.
We've got such a cool little sighting here. No! Don't you go behind the car. No! Wait, Seb. Oh, that was so disappointing. Sorry, everybody. We had a bushveld, a lizard, but it's gone behind the car now. We've had it for quite some time, but we had the most epic sighting. It was just running around and catching ants and all sorts of things, but it was very accommodating. I'm just going to come back here. It probably won't listen to me. What I will do, Seb, is let me go forward again. We can watch the dung beetles one more time. Look at that one over there. Can you see it rolling away, Seb? Got no dung to hide the lizard, everybody. But one dung beetle has completed its ball. If I was a female, I would not be impressed by that. That is very upsetting. That is like the equivalent of a piece of quartz instead of a diamond or a tanzanite or something like that. Very upsetting. Still got all the little midges on its back. Actually, I don't know if this is a female or a male dung beetle, because obviously dung beetles need to also at some point eat the dung. Maybe because they are so small, they are just balls for food. That could be one of the reasons. That wouldn't be sufficient. If females were to lay an egg in there, that larvae would starve to death, because once they bury them, there's a fair amount of the ball and of the feces material that dries up. So, it needs to be far bigger than that. But I do feel sorry for it, though. I wonder if those little flies are a hindrance to it. I mean, we know that there is a symbiotic relationship between dung beetles and mites, and how sometimes the mites can overrun these beetles, and then they can unfortunately die, but normally it's just a few of them. But look at that, like they're following them. That's how we feel. That is Seb, that is you and I on game drive, trying to get rid of the Mapani bees, normally. Or when we're sitting in a herd of buffalo, that's what it feels like. And I definitely do perform some of those rolling around tactics to try and get rid of the flies. But how's that a swarm of them? I'm going to have to do some more research about this, because, I mean, obviously you associate these flying insects with dung and the moisture, but I don't know why they're still hanging around that beetle. I don't know. Anyways, I shall try and look for an article on that, because that's quite fascinating. Now we've got another one, Seb. I don't know if you can. I think it might be too close, eh? There's one here. No, it's also going to go behind the seat now. There's another one rolling up. Oh, wait, oh no. It might roll down. It's not doing a very good job. There it goes. It should pop out. Just keep going left. Not you, sorry, that's me navigating the dung beetle. Telling it to go into frame. There it goes. Also, covered in these things. If anyone is able to grab a screenshot, if we do get closer to them, it would be nice to just try and identify what species of like little midge that is. Obviously, the dung beetles don't stand still for long enough. I don't think that they're Mapani bees. It doesn't look like that. I mean, if it was them, then they're just there for the moisture. But it's quite a nice, like a fashion show, hey? It makes them look like they've got spots. It almost makes them look poisonous, don't you think? You know how, well, obviously, you know, a lot of, especially the arthropod kind, have got aposematic coloration, and the reflection on those translucent wings almost make it look like it's got white spots, indicating that it is dangerous, that it doesn't taste nice. That's obviously not the case. That's not what's happening here. I'm just saying it looks like it. It's quite cool. Very nice. Off this will go. So going at a huge speed. Anna Maria, there's different types of dung beetle species. So typically they will feed on dung, but the type of dung varies. So there are some carnivorous types that will only feed on predator dung. Not the ones that we're looking at right now. They will take all sorts of herbivore dung. Buffalo is quite easy to also roll up. And then, of course, elephant dung, which we're seeing a lot of at the moment. And then, I mean, dung beetles are very intricate species. They're so cool. You obviously get different types. So not all dung beetles roll balls. You get some. I reckon if I went over there and lifted up the dung, I can't get out the car and just showed you, you'll see there'll be tiny little holes inside, and those are called endocorporates, so they're living inside the dung. And then you get others that will roll balls, and then you'll get some that like push them down straight underneath the dung. They'll dig a hole and pop them down like a long drop, if you will. So there's all different types, which is really, really quite cool. And then of course you get the klepto parasites and our dung beetle species too, and they'll try to steal each other's balls away from one another. But look, there's lots of flies sitting on there too. Maybe we can have a closer look at all the flies sitting on top. I don't see any brightly coloured ones. Ant alates. So the winged ants that'll eventually become a prince or a queen. I'm wondering. Not all of them, but some of them did look like it. They resembled it. Do you know what, Sebastian? I'm going to do something highly illegal. I'm going to try and attempt to get out of the vehicle. I apologize now if I have audio issues. I'm unplugged. I can't hear what Kirsten is going to say to me. She's directing. How bad? Am I breaking up? Okay. What I'm going to do is, it's not very nice, but I'm going to make sure that this thing faces you. And I'm going to try not to get tangled up. What are you things? Why don't you... What if I do this with all that in my hands? There, I'm good in elephant dung juice. Land on me so that I can get back to the camera. If I hunch over like that. That's fine. So this position is good. No bending for me, everybody. I'll just become a hunchback. I feel like I need to wait now. We can, you know. Anyways, that didn't work. That was a fail. Maybe I should... No, they all fly away. But I really want to show you. But anyways, I don't know what they are, but I have got an insect book with me. So I will spend the next 20 minutes paging through my insect book trying to find what those little flying insects were, because I have no idea. But if you did take a screenshot... I love the smell of elephant dung. Please... Hashtag Wild Earth. Please let us know, because I will now scroll Twitter and have a look to see if you've sent me a picture.
Welcome to the Masai Mara, and here we have impalas, and these impalas all have horns, so it means that these are males. They form a team called the bachelor herd. You can see some of them their horns are not very fully developed, while some have very big horns. So they will hang around this group until the next mating season. So around January, they'll start being aggressive against one another, and the feet, the ones with good physical condition, will go and try to defend or oust the ram that is dominant in the harem. So when they're about 3 years old, that is when they're kicked off from the harem, because the dominant ram, who is more mature, more built, more strong, about 8 and above years old, they don't tolerate these young bachelors or the young males within a harem. So that's the reason why they form a harem, a bachelor's herd. So they'll be walking on the edges of the territory where the harem is, and they hang around together where they, for security, and be grazing together. You can see some zebras here where they give a good security for these guys. And as they walk through this territory where there must be one that is leading them, actually a big one, who actually makes it stronger for them to walk within these small territories that they have. So they watch these impalas walking in the grass. I'm going still to find a leopard as a link to send you over to another live location.
We've come across this beautiful old male giraffe here. Welcome to And Beyond Pinda. I'm Kim, and behind the camera we've got Craig. We've been looking quite hard today. It's quite a hot day, so we've been searching, and most of the animals are pretty much hiding in nice, dense, shady thickets. Even this giraffe, you can see he's kind of put himself behind this little tree for some shade. But at the moment, he's just giving himself a good itch under his belly there. If you look at it, just before he turned around, you could see he's got quite a lot of lumps on the front of his forehead. He's got a few scars on his neck, and that's why I mentioned his age, just because older giraffe tend to have those kind of lumps on their foreheads and scarring on their necks due to fighting over territory and over breeding rights. Oh, there's a jackal that's just been disturbed by him. Okay, let's just move forward. Oh no, I think he's going to come out on the left-hand side of this tree that he was heading along behind. You got him. Let's just reverse. Yeah, the jackal's trotting away. He was obviously disturbed from where he decided to spend the day resting.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm sure we'll get Ngala back in no time. I found this little thing. Can't say I've seen it before. It is a silver cluster leaf, or it's growing on a silver cluster leaf, and it seems to be some sort of nest for these ants. Now, the only thing I can think of is that it is a gall ant nest. Except that when we usually see them, these nests are dry. And because the silver cluster leaf is sprouting new leaves, we've got a green one. That's the only thing I can think of. If you know what it is, let me know using the hashtag WildEarth. But it's the first time I've seen one so large and with almost nothing else in the tree, just little bits of green. And it most definitely is a nest, because when I went down to investigate it, all the ants came out quite angrily at me because I touched it. And they came out very angrily. Now, galls are created when an animal or insect particularly will inject the vascular tissue of a plant with some growth hormone. And then it produces basically a growth. And they use that growth as a nest. Now we know that wasps do it, ants do it. And we see them a lot, or doing it a lot, in silver cluster leaves. I'm quite sure I've seen dry ones like this, and the more I think about it, the size looks right. Kind of looks like a sunflower. The size looks right, and at the end, or towards the dry season, they kind of wither away and are just this husk with several different chambers. But I'm sure this is just a green version of it. Not so husky yet. And there's also tiny little holes, which I would imagine is where all the little larvae are living. Now, apparently when insects do this, they have it's a beneficial relationship, or at least not a parasitic relationship, to the plant, and that some of them even offer protection to the plant in the form of, like I said, I went up there and I touched it, see what is it, and they came rushing out. Now if I had to pull one of the leaves off this tree, I'm sure they would also come rushing towards me. It's really, really interesting. It's by far the biggest one I've ever seen. It really looks like a sunflower. And silver cluster leaf flowers do not look like that at all. They're small and wispy. That's really cool. Ian, you'd like to know if we get red ants in South Africa? I'm sure we do, Ian, because when I was growing up, we used to build a lot, like around our home, and you'd get these red ants that would bite you so badly. But I'm not sure if it's the same species that you would get around the world, especially in the US. But I remember them distinctly. Browny red things that would move through the red sand and bite me. This is very, very pretty. Don't you think so? In fact, it's bigger than all the leaves of the silver cluster leaf. If we pull out a little bit, you'll be able to see it stands out so starkly. Look at that. It's really pretty. Dizzy, of course, no, sunflowers don't grow on trees. It merely looks like a sunflower. It has the same shape. But no, sunflowers most definitely don't grow on trees. Very interesting flower, sunflower. I'm going to hop off for 30 seconds just to see what the back of this growth looks like. Yeah, it's definitely some sort of growth. There's 3 different kinds of ants around it, though, which is unusual. And Yeah, there's little holes all over the place. Yeah, there's no kind of stalk or anything like that. This comes directly from this main branch here. That is cool and very pretty. Now, I was saying to you that sunflowers are a really interesting group of plants. Well, not even a group of plants. They have very interesting behavior. You know, sunflowers will turn towards the sun, but they only do that when they're immature. And the way that they do that, disclaimer, this is not a sunflower, we just got onto the topic of sunflowers, but the way in which they do that is that the part that's exposed to the sun, there's one part that would be exposed and the other part would be in the shade, and the part that's in the shade the part that's in the sun grows and grows and grows, the part in the shade doesn't, and it pulls the sunflower as it happens, and that's how it turns. I think that's pretty awesome and also pretty simple when you think about it. But the growth rate is there's such a difference between the growth rate in the sun and the shady part of the stalk of the flower, that it allows the difference in that growth rate, allows the sunflower to move and follow the path of the sun. Pretty cool, if you ask me. Speaking of cool, it has cooled down. So I think that we will move. We've looked around the west, so we're going to move maybe down to Treehouse Dam again and check out the hyena den, because, you know, it's our last drive, James and I, this afternoon. So I need to see those babies. And BK, excuse me, he goes... and BK. So we will head down to the hyena den. How about that?
I had struck a pose originally, but Trishala took so long to link across to me that I eventually became tired. She started talking about being cool, and I thought she was referring to me, and so I struck a cool pose like this. So, let us look at this tree. This tree is the most vicious tree in all of Djuma. And as far as I'm aware, there are only 2 of this tree in existence on this reserve. I've only seen 2 of them. That's not to say that there aren't some others hiding somewhere. But although they are not very attractive, I don't think, they have a very nice name, I think. And the name of the tree is... the Governor's Plum. Flacotia indica. The Governor's Plum. I don't know why it's called the Governor's Plum, because I've never seen a plum on it, nor, as a matter of fact, have I seen a governor hanging on it. That's all I can tell you about this tree. Now, the only thing I can tell you further to what I've told you about this tree is that we have explored Chitwa thoroughly. We found 4 waterbuck, 1 warthog, a couple of impala, and 3 nyalas, and that was about it. And so we're going to continue now. We'll see if we can't pick up some sign of Tundi. I know they did have a look around here this afternoon, but they didn't find her. Thank you. Some of you saying you think I'm quite cool. That's very kind of you. I know that's just a sympathy thing, because there's nothing cool about me, let's face it. Okay. Thank you, MJ. Yes, with my collar up, I'm inescapably cool. All right, and Paul, I think that we've probably milked this Flacotia indica sighting for all it's worth. Goodbye, Governor's Plum, you deeply ugly tree. It's a little bit more attractive when it's got full leaf, but you don't want to put your fist into it, because you'll be stabbed It's got the nastiest, longest thorns. And it doesn't grow in a very nice shape either. Anyway. Many of you asking who is replacing Tswalu and I. This is a good question because, you know, can Trish and I really be replaced? And the fact that many of you think that we can is very hurtful. The fact that you feel that our departure is not something that is going to drive you all to tears and a state of bereftness that will render you unable to get out of bed in the morning is really quite hard for both of us to deal with. But because that is the case, we are being replaced, and we're being replaced by the great Tristan Dix, the woolly Steve Falconbridge, and the magnificent Andrew Corser. So now you'll all be able to get out of bed in the morning, safe in the knowledge that you'll be in very good hands.
So I've driven the forest and with no luck, because I was expecting to find a leopard, but seems like lots of impalas and baboons. So when there's presence of impalas or other antelopes and baboons, definitely the leopard might not be there. So I've decided to choose another direction. So I'll be heading to the swamp and maybe towards the escarpment to see if I can find more herds and even lions. It's getting cool right now, temperatures are getting down. So it's a nice time for cat activity. Have a single topi here with at least a few impalas. So this is a ram that has established his territory, where he will at least invite other females to come into his territory. A little while ago I saw him chasing one other, but now our impalas are very much relaxed. You can see this is a harem. I can't really see where the ram is. Okay, I've located it. So these harems come in with their dominant rams, and along these drives I've passed about 2 or 3, so they each establish the territory where they herd the females into that herd. I can see they're on the edges of this forest, so sometimes they can fall prey to leopards, and that's why you find leopards like living in such places where there's forest cover, with adequate water, and at least because they take their prey up on trees, so that is a good cover for them. But when they don't have food or prey around the forest, you'll see them in the open grassland, stalking, hunting, or maybe walking towards a different spot of their territory. So some of these impalas have small young ones, so they will at least give birth twice a year or 2. Sometimes I've seen twins, but not often that we encounter twins. But this is so interesting when you find a twin wild animal. I'm just going silent because I can hear some alarm call from vervet monkeys coming from the forest. It's gone quiet. When vervet monkeys go the alarm call went off, but I'm sure that those vervet monkeys have spotted something, and probably maybe a leopard. but it's too thick in there, I can't really tell. It was so far such that these impalas could not hear. Look, it went quiet. It seems like they also relaxed, because if the private monkeys carry on, they'll alert these impalas, and they'll of course move from the forest edge out of danger. So I'm still going to carry on and find more game. I have to go and look for maybe lions, birds on the swamps, because at this time there's a lot of activity at the swamps where the birds are hurriedly eating so that they can take off to their respective nesting places. So I'll slowly drive.
I am just driving around looking at what other little curiosities the bush is going to show me. But maybe I'll finally have the opportunity to say to you what I wanted to about green and chlorophyll and what is known as the purple earth hypothesis. First, I'm going to apologize for being out of sync because I must look weird. But now you won't see my mouth. Okay, I'll do this. We can stop and look at green in front of us. So can you imagine, obviously you know chlorophyll is green, and you know it's green because it absorbs short and long wavelengths, high and low energy wavelengths. And that's why what we see is green, because for some reason that works best for the collection of energy for plants. And that if they had collect in smack bang in the middle of the spectrum, which is green, that would damage a lot of their cells. And the reason we're seeing green is because chlorophyll is reflecting green. So the plant is absorbing every other light wavelength except for green. But like I said, green is the color that the sun pushes out the most of, so it's actually reflecting the most energy. But what is interesting is how that came to be. So there's a hypothesis called the purple earth hypothesis, which basically states that at one point, a purple pigment, retinal, was responsible for the first photosynthesis. So that would mean that most plants on Earth at that time, a couple billion years ago, would have been purple. So the sea of green that we see now would have been mostly purple. And the reason that that could have happened, because obviously this is all theoretical, is that in the water column, when photosynthetic organisms first began to exist, in the water column they had to compete for light, because when one organism exists, it blocks the light for other organisms. So these retinal containing organisms that are photosynthetic, they were actually archaeobacteria. I think they're called haloarchaic bacteria, and then some of them still exist today, and they are purple. They are in the water column, right, absorbing all the greatest wavelengths, absorbing the lovely green, the high energetic wavelengths, and they're blocking out the light for everyone else. So any organisms that are photosynthetic that wanted to compete with these retinal containing organisms had to figure out a different way, had to get or take advantage of different wavelengths. And so they started to take advantage of high energy and low energy wavelengths, blue and red, and reflect the green. And somehow they outcompeted those that were purple and absorbing green. So we ended up with green plants that are reflecting green and absorbing red and blue. Whereas in the ancient world, we could have had the opposite. It could have been purple plants that are reflecting purple and absorbing green. I just thought it was super interesting. And also it makes so much sense in the water column that one blocks out the other one. And in order to compete efficiently, they would have to select a different type of wavelength. Isn't that cool? Plants are just, the whole planet is just amazing. The whole universe. So full of absolute mind. Makes me so happy. It really does. And imagine you're part of that. You're not watching it. You're not this other thing that exists separately from it. You're all part of it too. Anyway, I thought this was a nice opportunity for me to finally get to explain that to you. Everyone's just driving around and enjoying the day, and I hope that you are too.
I am examining Rhizogum zambiziacum, aka the Mopani pomegranate. And I stop at this tree once a year because it is one of, I think it's the only patch of them on the reserve. And they flower once a year, and so they are doing so now, and they're very pretty. Rhizogum zambiziacum, or the Mopani pomegranate. They smell very subtly of roses, actually. Subtle rose smell. Very lovely. And there are bees around pollinating them, obviously. And then sometimes we're asked, do we get ferns in this area? And the answer is yes, we do. Here is one. In fact, this is the only one I know of in the area. Its name I have inevitably forgotten, but it is a common one, and I have it in a book. So this is the frond from a fern. They grow at the base of these trees always. Now, the reason we don't find Rhizogum zambiziacum anywhere else on the reserve is that it's a bit wet. It's normally found where it's slightly drier. So you find quite a lot up in the northern parts of Ngala, for example. My wife is sore amazed by this particular segment. Thank you. Many of you saying that you like my socks. You can get your very own pair at Feet Sock Co. Yes, at Feet Sock Co. They're lovely little socks. Some fun pictures on them. I am currently looking for tracks of Tundi the leopard. I haven't managed to find any. But the flowers are very pleasant this afternoon, and so I'm just having a look at those as well. Seems to be a fairly quiet day on the game front all over the place. We'll go back towards where Tundi was last seen. Oh, you would like to see my socks, would you? Right. Whoops. They have got elephants on them. This particular elephant has got very short legs. I don't know if it's a birth defect, but it has short legs. There we are. They've got yellow on them. Anything with yellow on them, I enjoy. That is why I've got yellow veldskoen. My yellow veldskoen make me feel cheerful. Although I must confess I'm not convinced by my choice of the two different shades of yellow. They possibly don't go well together. Right, into the riverbed to find the leopard.
So when James is driving off to find some leopard, I've not been successful with the leopard, but I've come across these 3 jackal pups that are looking so much energetic this evening. Could be they're trying to locate mom or not, because their parents will leave them and go out to find food and then come back to them. Sometimes you'll be left with one parent, where the 2 parents will do parenting, where one will be left with the pups the other will go out and find food, and sometimes they'll all be living by themselves. But now they seem to be locating their parents, maybe. Looking so energetic and trying to find whatever they can in these long grasses. At this age, you sometimes see them nibbling on termites, sometimes rat. Yeah, so cute. And when they come across a dung, they'll eat the dung beetles. Hannah, thank you for your question. Yes, I've seen jackals hunt. They have so much experience in taking down baby impalas. So I've seen them, especially after the impalas have given birth, them chasing around baby impalas. An interesting thing, they will eat as much as they can and bury some in the ground and then go back to the den where they'll regurgitate food for the pups. Oh, one of the parents has come. So yes, I've seen jackals hunt. Could be that's the den, or maybe they're waiting, or mother was walking them around. Very cute pups. So they'll stick around with their mothers for about 2 years, where they'll be left to hang around and go on fend for themselves. But at this age, they're highly dependent on their parents. So because jackals have gone, I'll still carry on with my mission. The sun is setting over in the Lolo escarpment, so I'm heading towards that direction. So I'll take you over to another live location.
Good afternoon. As he said over there at Masamora, the sun is setting and we're hoping to get a bit of activity from our male lion here. As I was saying earlier, this is one of the Ross males. Now they both are here, we just can't see the other one. This is the one with the darker mane, sort of the more dominant, meaner one. You see, very well camouflaged. So that's down there is where the brother is. I mean, he's lying flat. They're quite skinny. It doesn't look like they've eaten too recently. And you can see on this one as AD zooms in there. His stomach, which is the part closest to us, his head is furthest away. But looking quite flat. It doesn't look like they've eaten. But I'm hoping that he is going to lift up his head for you. Because on his left-hand side of his face, he's got a big injury. His nose is actually very, very swollen. He's got a cut on the top of his nose, like the bridge of his nose. And then his sort of left lip jaw got a very big hole. Almost a hole on it. I'm hoping he's going to lift up, especially now the sun's setting. He should be getting a bit more active. It is cooling down quite a lot. We're hoping that he's going to move. And now they were moving around the whole morning. There's tracks of them everywhere in the river, out the river. And they were following a herd of buffalo. So potentially got injured from the buffalo, but I mean, we don't know. I haven't actually seen him too clearly. But yes, indeed, I hear some comments saying he's a very flat cat, and he is very, very flat. I mean, myself and OD have been sitting here for close on 45 minutes, and he has moved his leg twice. That's what we've had. You can see there's breathing pretty slow, quite controlled breathing. He's not panting excessively. He was a little bit earlier when it was much hotter. Now he's cooling down. He's in a little bit of shade. You can see most of his head is in the shade. There's his legs in the shade. So he is remaining quite cool. There's a bit of a breeze blowing, which is helping him keep his body temperature down, letting him relax a bit. But I mean, it's just impressive, the camouflage. Like we were following him from behind. He moved maybe 15 meters. And he lay down in the grass while I was turning. And I looked back and I just couldn't see him. Disappeared. I mean, just look at that image now. I mean, you can see the sun sort of reflects off of the line a little bit differently than it does on the grass. But I mean, it's fantastic how he blends in.
Everyone, I'd like to play a birthday game with you. It's called What's in That Hole? That's just it. I thought I'd make up a theme song and I couldn't think of anything, but it's called What Is in That Hole? And you're going to use the hashtag Wild Earth. And you're going to guess what is in that hole. I know what's in that hole. I saw it go in. Maybe it'll come out. Maybe it wasn't sure whether it was scheduled for today's shift and whether it'll be on time. But also you have to send your
Sorry about that. Not sure what happened to Tswalu or how it is that she has been excluded. She'll be back, I'm sure. We've come up onto the sort of eastern parts of Djuma to see if we can find some leopard tracks. As yet, none. But it is a tremendously pleasant afternoon, I must say. And I found another Mapani pomegranate bush. I'm sure you're all deeply excited to know. I didn't stop for it because I thought, well, one Mapani pomegranate bush a day is probably enough. I'm sorry for those of you who are disappointed. I'm sure there are a few. We must cater to everybody. Leopards and Mapani pomegranates. Right, apparently you're all disappointed and want to go to somebody else, so off you go.
You want to come back to the game that we're playing? What's in this hole? Using the hashtag Wild Earth, you can tell me what you think. Craig, you guess air and darkness. Well, you know what? If you want the right answer, ask the right question. And you are not incorrect. That's 100% true. What animal is in this hole? There we go. That is a better question. Craig, 100% there's darkness in there and air. But there's an animal in there too. Yes, you can see the ants. Warren Chief, you say a porcupine. A porcupine that may have featured on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. But no, not a porcupine. Now I feel like my friend here, I was about to say it and give it away because I'm good at that. I fear that my friend here is not going to play ball and not going to come back up. Some of you are saying dwarf mongoose. That is a good guess. But that is not who resides in this particular hole. Maybe if you pull out a little bit, BK, just to give some size. Peter, you say a puff adder. Oh, it is not a puff adder. But Peter, you're the closest from everyone so far. Guitarist, you say a blue whale? Well done, guitarist. You have the most creative answer so far. It is... tell you what it was doing. It was out on the western side of the mound, collecting the sun setting rays. It will probably not come back out because the sun is starting to set and it really makes no difference to it now, in or out. But I hope that it will play ball and will come out, and I will reveal the answer soon.
We've come across a pretty scene of a group of white rhino. You see little rhinos just popped out from behind her mother there. And just before you joined us, there were a few skirmishes, because if you look to the right, we've got two other little rhinos here. And I say little because they are not yet fully grown. And we were chatting about it a little bit yesterday with the other group of rhino we had. This is a case of satelliting. So these two younger calves are kind of trying to piggyback onto the mothering of this cow and her little calf. And what we've been seeing is the mother keeps kind of trying to push them away, because obviously she's got quite a responsibility to make sure that little one that she's got by her side makes it to adulthood, whereas these two are quite big and should be able to look after themselves a bit better than that little one of hers. But you'll see now they seem to be moving back towards her. They're going to try and stick with her as much as they can. And the little guy has got his ears trained on them. He looks very, very interested in the other two. And these two look quite interested in us. Yeah, the lighting is absolutely beautiful. You can see it kind of lights up those little furs, the little bit of fur on the edge of the rhino's ears. Backlightings, yeah, it looks beautiful. It makes you kind of notice lots of other little things. You'll also notice quite a lot of little flies that the light picks up that are buzzing around the heads and backs of the rhino. And the light picks that up pretty well as well. It's also beautiful shining through the dust that youngster's kicking up, trying to get rid of those flies. So we'll just say it's a pretty beautiful scene. Tim, I would say no, rhinos cannot have twins. A baby rhino, when it comes out, is already pretty big. So for there to be two of those inside of an adult rhino, I think would be pretty harmful to the mother. So I don't think that's something that happens very often or at all, in fact. Same thing with impala and wildebeest. It'll always only be just the one baby. But that is a very good question, Tim. Looks like the youngster's trying to suckle now. Well, he's just standing behind Mum. And it was also quite interesting is that if you've noticed, the youngster's so curious. He's always got his ears forward, like trying to work out what's going on, and often will walk a little bit away from the mum. And when we pulled up here, that little youngster started walking over to us to see what we were all about. And the mother quite quickly got in between us and the calf, just making sure that she's in between the calf and any kind of danger. Even though you can see she's very relaxed with us at the moment, she knows that we aren't a threat, but she's always going to be on the side of caution.
nature's lovers asking how close we are currently to the rhino. I'd say maybe 15 meters or so. But when we first came up to this little group, we were a little bit closer, and they actually ventured closer to us, maybe about 8 meters away, and then moved off. So the animals are very, very comfortable with the vehicles. They're quite used to us, and they understand that we don't pose any threat to them, so they're happy to kind of go on with their natural behavior. If their path takes them past us, they'll happily come past us. But I mean, you can see mum's kind of keeping an eye on us, the mother. Baby's very interested, got her ears trained on us. But generally, there's no kind of signs that they're uncomfortable. And those signs would be tails curled up in the air, trotting away with the baby in front of the mother. And obviously, you can see none of that behavior. Okay, we'll probably sit with these rhinos, see if there aren't any more little skirmishes, and see if these satellite calves can keep their company a little bit longer.
So we are trying the same game that they were trying with the rhinos. We're just hanging around here, seeing if we can get some activity from these males. And what you're looking at now is the other Ross male. So we moved around, we left the one that was sleeping to join this one that's sleeping. It actually seems to be in a bit of a harder spot, so you could just see some of his mane on the sort of left-hand side there, on the right. Again, I mean, very well camouflaged. You know, this lion is maybe 5, 6 meters from the car. That's where he lay down, and very, very, very well hidden. You got to give them that. Lazy as they are lazy in good places. They're lying in perfect areas. You can see he's on a bit of a game path. If anything's walking past, might not see them. If they are hungry, I said to you, they are hungry. It looks skinny. You can see around them there, the left-hand side of the bush, right-hand side of the bush, both areas where something could walk down. There's a water hole close by. So he could ambush anything that's walking down here while still getting his rest, staying nice and shaded. You see he's got this little bush here. He's completely in the shade. Breathing very, very calmly, but being very lazy. Now, you forget how lazy lions can actually be. They just sleep, especially these Ross males, notoriously lazy. But myself and Odie, we will put in the patience. We will sit here and see if anything happens.
Here, your second scrub hare sighting of the day. Your cup runneth over. One, all the way across Tswalu, some 2,000 kilometers away, and one here, on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. I'm not sure if the two of them are distantly related. I think it highly unlikely. This one moved as we drove past, and in so doing gave away its position. It is now not entirely sure whether we can see it or not, or whether we are looking at something else. And so it is taking the gamble to sit very still, using its camouflage to prevent us from eating it. For I'm sure that it is assuming that we want to eat it. Gorgeous, gorgeous fur. You can see that massive eye, and it's obviously designed for capturing as much light as possible in the night because they are nocturnal most of the time. That is amazing. Hey, how cool is that? So you can see how massive the eye is, how soft the fur must be. The little nose, twitching, smelling. You can even see the vehicle in the reflection. Wait, I'll wave. That's astounding. And then it's also got a tick in one of its ears, and the other ear that it's turned away from us. The tick is about the same size as the poor thing's eye. Not quite, but it is enormous. Yeah, I agree, Beach Bunny. It looks supremely soft, that fur. I don't know if it is or not. I've never touched a scrub hare before. I could try and leap out of the car and touch this one, but I suspect that many people will take a dim view of that. I would be one of them. I think you'd also find that on the miraculous chance that you managed to catch one of these things, you'd find that they are blessed with weapons you didn't know existed before. I think they'd scratch and bite quite ferociously. It's a really, really good point, Murphy's mum. Do they blink? This one hasn't blinked at all, has it? I mean, they must blink. They don't have that membrane like the elephants have. There's the tick. Attached itself to a nice ear vein. Ugh. That's pretty gross. But this thing has not blinked at all. Now it's having a meal. Some salad. How on earth, then, does it keep its eye from drying out? It must have a film over the top. Apparently, Trishala says she's seen one wink before. This is too cool. But I wonder if there isn't some kind of protective lens covering. There, it blinked. It blinked. Everyone saw that. Well done, Blinky the bunny. What an amazing creature. It's decided to have some early supper because it's up anyway. Hi. Oh, onto the road behind us with its long legs. And off it goes. Bye. Watch out for Tundi. Apparently she was around here. That was a very cool sighting. I'm going to have one more look at the owl before moving on from here.
Welcome to the Mara. We are watching a small herd of elephants with a tiny calf. So it's that time of the day when these elephants will start heading off near the escarpment and into the forest area. Look at that cute calf. So during the day they walk to the swamps where they feed and drink water. Look at that posture there. So we have about 2 herds, and I think Mom is directing them to walk to a different direction because there's a vehicle approaching, so that's why they're moving away from the road. These matriarchs are super attentive to the young ones whenever there's any obstacle coming towards the calves. See them walking away, leading the calves away from the road. Sometimes they are so playful and find that they become inquisitive, want to find out what's going on. I like the way they're plucking the grass. So that calf is not yet able to use the trunk properly. So you'll see them swinging the trunks, watching others what they're doing, but their trunks are not yet strong enough. A little bit of trunk wrestle. Teenagers use this as a way of play, and sometimes when they put their trunks into each other's mouth, they actually analyze the same, and also they can tell if one is in distress or sometimes stress, and that is one way of finding peace that they are playing. They've slowly turned direction, so that tells you how the matrix has communicated and made them change direction and change course. Previously they were walking to the right, now they're walking all to the left. That is so interesting how these matrix are able to communicate, and everyone just slowly turns away. So that tells you that the infrasound has picked in, and the matrix has said, not that direction, let's change to another site. You can see the other herd in the background there. These two has also decided to join the rest of the herd. So I'm going to stick here and watch these elephants and see where they're going to as we take you over to another live location.
We are still sitting here with this little group of rhino, and the scene's just kind of getting more and more beautiful as the sun gets low on the horizon. The light's getting prettier on these rhino, and there's still kind of been some interesting interactions. Just before you left us, we were chatting about how chilled the mum is, the mother of the calf. And just because of her experience with vehicles and people, she knows not to be too worried. She's in a really, really safe place. But those other two youngsters, the two teenagers or younger rhinos, are a little bit more nervous. They kind of keep trotting around the place, feeling a little bit anxious. They seem to have settled down now. They're grazing. Walking away from us, also having turned their back to us, is quite a show of confidence. So the little calf should stay with its mum probably until it's about 2 years old. And at that point, the mother will start to try and wean it off. So it's between 18 months and 2 years old. And then the mother will start to kind of push it away, and she'll come into season and then maybe go and start trying to look for a male to mate with and have another calf. And that point is when they would go off and try and find a kind of surrogate mother to look after them, or a stepmom or kind of auntie, if you will, to kind of just look after them for company. They've had 2 years of being with mum. Suddenly they've been kind of abandoned. They're big enough to look after themselves, but they just feel lonely and a bit sad. So that's what we see happening with these other two, who are, I'd guess, I think the smaller of the two looks to be maybe 2.5 years old. The other one's probably closer to 3 or 4 years old. And you can see they're still quite young and unsure of themselves, keeping their distance, but you can also see how close together they stay. So they are in the same boat, sticking together, but still wanting the protection of that older cow. And one of the things that kind of helps to wean the rhino off of its mother's kind of milk, and then obviously helps it to move away, is the growing of its horn. So you can see that little one on the left, its horn's still pretty small, so that helps for her to get to the mother's teats between her back legs. As that horn grows, obviously it's going to become more and more uncomfortable for that little calf to drink from the mother, and that's one of the reasons the mother starts to reject the calf drinking, and then start looking for maybe a bull to mate with and start the whole cycle again. Oh, there we go, a little bit of a chase. Little one's getting a bit too close. You can see the smallest calf is still quite interested in those two bigger ones. Always wanting to be kind of on the closer side of mum to those younger rhino. But every time they get a little bit too close for comfort, the mother intervenes. You also notice that while the other three, or the three larger rhinos, are all still feeding off grass quite a lot, the youngsters feeding off grass less, quite a lot less, and that's just because she's still drinking from milk. So quite a big part of her diet will be from her mother. Oh, very interesting hardy-dars that she's seeing fly past. But you can just see she finds everything fascinating. And even those younger runners, they've spotted some wildebeest that they're going to investigate. We're going to stay here and see how they handle those while you guys go check out something else.
And there's something else that you are now checking out, is the rear end of a hyena that we found just sleeping in the road. It's not the first time that we've seen hyena here, and I suspect that this might be the not so little cub anymore of, some of you may remember there's a hyena that's part of the Pridens clan that has a blind left eye. She's lovely. She's probably one of my favorite hyenas here. Well, it's also the one that I see all the time, and she's easy to identify, so that definitely has a lot to do with it. And I think that this is her cub, because the last time that I saw the two of them together with their mum was actually in this exact same spot. And if you remember that old hyena den with the ivory tree growing out of the termite mound, pretty much, I suppose, northwest from here is about 300 meters away, so it's not very far. So we have seen them around here before, but if this is the cub, sadly the sibling is no longer around. We saw them on the giraffe carcass a few days back on Kwenga, which is a reserve that we are also able to traverse on. And yeah, very, very sad stuff. The other little one wasn't around, so not uncommon for something like that to happen, but not even acknowledging us. Like, we've obviously parked an enormous distance away because I didn't know what its reaction was going to be, and I thought that we would definitely try and put this little one on screen. Now you're all commenting and saying how fluffy it is. Yes, very, very fluffy, and they've grown up quite a bit. It's so hard to try and age these cubs, especially when you haven't been able to see them when they were just tiny little black things, because they're obviously so sweet and precious. And I know all of you, I don't need to preach to all of you, but for all the new viewers that are watching, when hyena cubs are born, they have got black fur on them, so you don't see any of their patterns or different color variations. That sort of fur comes through at a later stage. But I think that the last time I saw them, I said that they must have been between 8 and 10 months or so. So I think they're probably closer to about 10 months old now. Not spending very much time with mom. Oh, big yawn. Definitely going out and about. This one comes into camp all the time because mom has taught them to do that. She used to just arrive with them, drop them off, and then off she'd go, and they'd steal all the students' shoes. Keith, I think I don't know why it was sitting out on the road. Maybe it was just trying to catch the last of the sun's rays, the last of the warmth. It hasn't quite warmed up in the evenings just yet. It does get a bit chilly. But hyenas are notorious. They just lie wherever they want. I mean, they even lie in puddles of water. So I don't know if there's any specific reason. Are you going to camp now? Probably knows that we've just got our new intake of students at Eco Training. We've got one group left this morning. They're off to Makuleki to finish their 55-day course. We've also got some year students on that group. And now we've got 2 different courses that have just joined us. Hello. You're very cute. But if anyone else disagrees with the age, because I'm no expert when it comes to hyenas, please let me know. You can hashtag Wild Earth. It'd be nice to have a bit of a discussion about it, but I think that they're probably closer to about 10 months old now. But we're going to start the car and follow this fella down the road.
Here we are with the spotted eagle owl. My last visit here for the next little while. I suspect while I'm gone, the little chick will hatch. Now, last time when they raised Sebwig the owl here, Sebwig had no siblings, but they can raise 1 to 6 little chicks. So she could be sitting on as many as half a dozen eggs, which is quite interesting. She's just so comfortable with us, which is great. A little squirrel came past, gave her a bit of a fright, but the squirrel moved on quickly because, of course, she will devour a squirrel if the squirrel is not very careful. What I'd also thought I would do is give you the names that have been given to this bird, because it's very widely spread by indigenous South Africans. So in Zulu, it's called Isikhovanpondo. There are 2 Xhosa words for it, Ifubesi and Ishuluhulu. That must be onomatopoeic, Ishuluhulu. That's quite cool. I don't know what language that is, with a K. What language begins with a K in South Africa? Mpo? There isn't one. Editika, I don't know what that means. Anyway, and then Sesotho, Makotlo, or Morobisi. And then we have also got the German one, and the German one is Vlekenuhu or Berguhu. And we've also got the French one, and in French it is Grand Duc Afrique or Grand Duc Africain. In Portuguese, Bufo Malhado. And in Dutch, Afrikaanse Oiho. And in Afrikaans, a gevlekte oeruil. It's quite nice. It's a gevlekte oeruil is a spotted ear owl. So it's one of the ear owls because it's got those ear tufts. It's quite cool. Gevlekte oeruil. And in Dutch, Afrikaanse oeho. She does, exactly, Mac and Weezer. She looks like it. Nice to hear from you again. I think I've heard from you for a while. She does look like a sleeping house cat. I assure you that were you to go anywhere near her and make her feel threatened, she would render unto you a punishing set of injuries, the likes of which I don't think you'd recover from very quickly. So she may look like a tame tabby right now, but she ain't one. What is that? Just look below there. You see the white thing on the ground? I hope that's not a discarded egg. It is. There's a discarded egg there. That's very interesting. Can you see it there? It's the whitest thing on the bank. There we are. Oh, very interesting. I'd love to go and fetch it, but again, I'm not going to. I wonder why that was discarded. Or maybe it just fell. Maybe when she stood up, it fell. That's actually most likely, because you won't be able to pick it up and carry it back. It's quite a big egg too. It's like the size of a chicken egg. So Charlotte's desperate for me to fashion a stick and pick it up. I don't think I should do that, Trishala. I'm not sure how I would fashion a stick that long. It would have to be a 20-meter stick. Fascinating. Gorgeous afternoon out here. I can't see if it's broken, no. It just looks fairly intact. I wonder if it didn't just roll down there. Gizmo, I've been asking myself exactly the same thing. Why don't they nest in a tree? And the answer is they do sometimes, but they don't build a nest. So they'll nest on any surface where they can create a very shallow bowl of about 30 centimeters in diameter, so about a foot. So that can be a bank, it can be a ledge in a city, in a building, it can be on a very big tree that's got a kind of flattish, bowl-shaped spot. So they'll nest pretty much anywhere where they can create this little bowl-shaped hollow. But it really does seem insane that this is the place she's chosen to nest. Sleepy little wool. Not so little. Only 700 grams worth, 45 centimeters, 1.5 feet tall. Right, I think we'll move on as the sun starts to set and see what else we can find.
So we've just left that little group of 4 rhinos to come across another 2 white rhinos, another little mother and calf duo. And these 2, today what we've been doing, because it's been quite a hot day, we've been going kind of from little mud puddle to little mud puddle, and most of them have been dried up, but these 2 seem to have found one that had some nice gooey mud in, and if you look at those dark lines along the bottom of their bellies, you can just see that they've obviously been wallowing all day long. You can see on the little one, he's got mud crusted all over him. I think they definitely found the best place to be after a hot day like today. Sorry, her, that little calf is a girl, female. So, Jenny, generally rhinos' ears will get tattered and torn from getting snagged on bushes and thorns. The males possibly from fighting, but here on Phinda we actually notch the ears. We cut a little bit out, and that's just for research reasons. It's done when they're quite young, so it doesn't really hurt, and it's so that we can keep track of which rhino we can differentiate from them, and so that we know who is still around and who isn't. And if one kind of goes missing, we know we need to try and look out for that animal that might have gone missing. So it's basically just for research and for the safety of the rhino that we do that. But that's a good question, quite observant of you to notice. You can see on the side of the mother there, that mud's still quite wet. Krishna's asking if rhinos can swim, and I have to be honest, I've not seen that happening. I've just seen them wallowing in nice puddles, but I mean they get pretty well submerged in a puddle of mud, but I cannot say that I've seen them in kind of like a big body of water swimming around. But I will look into that and get back to you about that. I'm not entirely sure. It's a very good question though. Shall we move forward a little bit, see if we can get a view of these guys again? Okay, we're just going to watch the sunset with these two. See if anything changes. Yes, I am showing you another hole, but I have finally accepted that our whole game will not go as planned because the sun is setting and anything that was in the hole can go in and not want to come out anymore. So in that hole covered by the grass, slightly lower, that one, there was the same animal that was in the other hole. If you guessed it was a rough-scaled plated lizard, then well done. Although I have no evidence to show you that that's what it was, but I promise you it was one in the other hole and one in here. Of course, they won't play ball with me. Oh, I thought that was the moment for it to just come out and prove me wrong. But apparently not. I think that could be an interesting game. Sometimes they could be spiders, squirrels, mongoose, birds, lizards, geckos, snakes, all sorts of things could peek their heads out. But alas, our game was only a shell of a game show today. But hopefully the hyena den will not only be a shell of a den this evening, so I'm going to go through. I'm not too far at all. Go through on that side, see if they're out and playing, because the sun has started to set. Hopefully we'll be lucky.
Yes, look at this, look at this. We have been tracking for the past 2.5 hours. And we've got them. Look at that. Finally, Mom and 3, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon from Tswalu. Oh, my word. Yeah, when things just happen and they pan out, the way that you intend. We've been tracking and tracking and tracking. Glenn has been scanning and scanning. And eventually I was just about to give up. I asked Glenn to move up a little bit, and as we started the vehicle, Glenn spotted something, and there the little cubs were. And how in the name, as we found the cub, there we hear Mom contact calling for these little ones to rush out to her. I'm going to pull slightly forward, Glenn. Just hold on there, folks. I'm going to pull slightly forward, just so that branch is out the way. Oh, that's a tequila. Oh, okay, so there we go. We're going to send you off to another location. We'll see you now.
So we've come across a lone cheetah, and it looks like the cheetah is fully fed. Looks like he was feeding right about now and left the carcass and now walking away. Could be hyenas around here. He's very, very shy. This big male cheetah. And here it's croaking. So he's going to reposition again and follow this cheetah. So he's going to find a place where he'll spend the night, because cheetahs don't actually move around at night. they depend on the daylight to go out and hunt. So right about now, he's trying to find a suitable place where he'll be away from other predators like lions, leopards, and even hyenas to spend the night. Look at how full he is. I'm sure hyenas are trying to follow because he's left a carcass somewhere. So I'm just going to follow him closely because I think he wants to go for a drink. He's going definitely for a drink, so I'm just following him very, very slowly. I don't want to scoop him and maybe make him run to where hyenas or maybe lions are. So I'm just going to go round. Even though cheetahs depend on the daylight, so male cheetahs can use the moonlight to go for a hunt. So as I'm following this cheetah, let's send you over to another live location.
Welcome back. Okay, so the feed is not the greatest, folks. I'm going to have to apologize in advance, but we have got her, and look at those little ones getting tucked in. She must have been away from these cubs for about a day and a half now. Looking at the tracks of mom and looking at the little ones, so they are very hungry, and she has got a full belly. Can't believe we found them. Great, I'm so happy that everybody's excited because it's been a few days since we've seen these little gems, and it's just taken some hard work. Obviously the groundwork put down from the tracking team this morning, and then this afternoon myself and Glenn said we are not going to give up. We had a plan of action, we stuck to it, and it materialized. Wow. It's just such an amazing feeling when you have a plan of action and then Mother Nature just works, with you. Because she could have come back 2 hours later, on the cover of darkness. But how lucky we are that she came back now. So the little one's really hungry. Obviously at their age now, still nursing. And we're coming close to the point where these little ones will start going through the weaning phase or process. It's around about 8 weeks the process actually starts for these little ones. But right now Mom has got enough food for her, and then obviously allowing her to produce enough milk, which is the best for these little ones to grow. Oh, look at that. Thanks, Mom. What a sight. What a day. Anything small. I think us as humans have a little built-in system that I like to call the R system. And every time anybody sees something small, it's an automatic reaction to go, ah. And I've tested the theory, not only with young cubs like this and young antelope, but poo, young or small elephant dung. Bunch of people in the car, and we were talking about dung, and I picked up a big piece of fresh elephant dung, and when I touched it, everybody's reaction was like, oh my word, how could you touch that, sis? So I walked around my car and I picked up a little elephant dung, and when I picked it up, the reaction was totally different. Aww. So So we all have this inbuilt R system. See, she's panting quite quickly, so she's been walking more than likely very far to get back to these little ones. How amazing to be on a journey to see these little ones grow from the tiny little balls of fur that they were when they were first found to what they look like now. Legs are longer. That mantle is starting to dissipate now. It'll start fading out over the next couple of weeks. And now these little animals will just really start shooting up like sprouts. Their legs are the longest. Those are the things that get the longest, and their feet start growing now as well. Or their paws. They're still quite small. They're only about, maybe about 2.5, 3 centimeters. Maybe 4 at max with the spray of the sand. Yeah, let's go for 4 centimeters. But yeah, these little ones holding their nerve while Mom has left them out here. And that beautiful mantle would have been a very important piece of camouflage for these little ones, including their color and spots. It's really, really amazing. So nursing is the order of business right now. And then you'll find that after they have full bellies that are... Oh, wow.
Sabit.
So after the feed, they definitely will go down for a nap. Comes on to please. I'm not kidding. Yeah.
What the first one was, what is
So main order for her would just be to cool down, and then more than likely do a little bit of grooming on the little ones, and then just... All right, we're going to send you off to another location, and we'll see you later.
I am now driving up north to see what we can find. Of course, the hyena den was inactive, which is a shame, but it's fine. I gave them a scolding. I said, it's fine. You don't want to see me before I go? I don't mind. Instead, we shall look at the squirrel, as it also just hightails it away from me. It's fine. That's fine. When I have none of the others, you know what I do have? Mushrooms. I'm going to try something out tonight. I'm going to try out looking at the spores, because the spores reflect a lot of light. So I'm going to try and shine a light on the mushroom and see if we can see the spores. And of course, if we can't see the spores, then I will let you know. And we can... Excuse me, 1 second. There we go. My radio just died, but that's fine. You can look at the squirrel in the meantime. Oh, never mind. It's running away from me again. Oh, it stopped. There we go. I've got everything back. Now I have a squirrel to look at, and the squirrel has showed us its superpowers of crazy high jumps. So yes, I was telling you that I wanted to do that and show you those spores, because how could I go out without showing you a mushroom? And today I really got it all in. I got to give you the theory I read. I'm going to show you the mushroom, and of course I'll have to find a chameleon. So I'm going to get it all in today on this last drive for the stint. So now we shall proceed north. If you're wondering about the leopard that I was following up on in the north, I picked up on nothing. But that's why I'm heading back there now. Because now's a good time. Animals will be on the move. And moving animals are always easier to find, because other animals can see them and will alarm at them, and then also we'll be able to see them and not just tucked up underneath a bush looking, quite flat. So this is a great time, and that's why I'm going back up north. Wish me luck. I hope we find that last minute leopard.
Okay, so we left the Ross males. Now they didn't move. Not even a flick of an ear, a twitch of a paw, there was nothing. So we let some other people come in there, have a look, and we decided to see if we can find some leopards or anything else that is active, maybe hyenas, some elephants walking around. So we're taking a bit of a drive around. You can see sun is set, it's getting much, much cooler. And we should be getting a lot more of the nocturnal animals starting to wake up, stretch, move around, do things like that. A lot of the other ones, things like the impala, zebra, wildebeest, coming to sleep in an open clearing like we have on our right-hand side over here. You can actually see there's one impala, two of them actually, inside the clearing over there. And this is the perfect area for them. I'm sure if we sat here for 10-15 minutes, we would see the wildebeest coming through, maybe even a giraffe coming through, looking to sleep here. Nice and open, nice and safe. They're very well positioned. There's a water hole just in the middle here, a small pan. So we've got a question from Sue asking if the flies and insects bother us when we're driving. Sue, very much so. Very, very much. This time of the day, it's a lot better because it's much cooler, so a lot of the flies and those other insects, the daytime insects at least, are starting to settle down and we don't see them too much. But the worst is the morning. You drive around anytime between 5 and 7, and there's just spider webs everywhere. So you drive and you just get spider webs to the face, and they go in your eye, in your mouth, on your ears, in your beard, if you don't have one too, but my beard, and they just go everywhere. I try to drive behind people that have already driven into the spider web. But you can see, so in the mornings, we'll have a look tomorrow morning, Sue, because a lot of the time on these impalas, on the zebras, on the wildebeest, on the giraffe, you can see all of the little bugs. I call them muggies. You can see all of the little muggies just flying around, especially when they move. And they just break off and they just fly around the top of these animals. That's where they congregate. They like to go towards people. We're lucky at the moment because there's a lot of water, but often you'll see the flies. They will come and land on your eyes or your mouth or your nose. They're just trying to get a little bit of moisture. That's why we try to avoid driving through little puddles in the road, or on the side of the road rather, because that's where all the bugs stay. Look over there, OD, just go on the road there. I just spotted, if we zoom in, OD, on the left-hand side there, there's a dung beetle ball about there. So there's 2 dung beetles. There it is. Get them rolling a little ball. Gotta go off. But as they go off, we're also going to go off.
All right, welcome back. I would have to apologize about the feed. It's not the greatest where we're sitting, and we're not too sure why. But it's just a lot of cuteness going on here, so it should be okay. Sorry, so there was a bit of breakup. There was a question there. What is the cheetah's scientific name? It's Axononyx jubatus, and that is referring it to its claw. So there's actually two. Oh, from Firebird, there we go. So Firebird, so it's referring it, there's actually two derived meanings behind it. It is Greek terminology, and one would be from the claw, referring to its dew claw, and then the next part of its name is referring to it's not being able to retract its claws into its sheath itself. So those claws being extended all the time, and as well as that dew claw, which sits somewhere on the wrist. And that jubatus part is then referring it to long. So obviously it's long mane when it's going through its developing stages. It's a very strange scientific name, Axononyx jubatus. So referring to its claws and then that long crest of mane through these younger years, or months, let's say at that. So the weaning process has started for these little ones. So over the next weeks, she will then start weaning them off milk and then start introducing them into a more solid form of diet. Well, but it would not be complete for until another 4 months. Really amazing to be here, and just so happy we found them. Glenn was mentioning there as well, when we saw them at first, he said it honestly did not look like little cubs moving through the grass. It's in a grassy section within the south here, and they were leaping and bounding, obviously hearing the mom's call. They got very excited and just put down fifth gear and just motored through the grass. But very happy that everybody's still okay. They're growing really well. Sharon, does the mother ever get where she's left the cubs? No, that's not like a mom. A mom is very dedicated. That's her everything right now. So she would have landmarks on where she left them, a specific point that she knows. I've never, maybe there has been recordings where Cheetah has gotten a little bit disorientated and hasn't been able to find the cubs. But it's incredible on how they know where to go back to. And something more fascinating is how the cubs know instinctively that when mom walks away, that it's now time to sit still until she returns. So I think there are chances of them forgetting, but not very common, let's say it that. Maybe young cheetah, inexperienced cheetah, definitely. First litter, like imagine the Serengeti with all that thick grass. I mean, it must be an absolute nightmare for the mother to find cheetah in the long grass. But my heart is just overwhelmed at the moment. She's obviously taking some well-deserved rest. Lois, why do males play no part in bringing up the cubs? So for males, if you look at driving factors with animals and most organisms, it is the drive to feed and the drive to reproduce. So with males, they're not really, they don't have the urge in order to stay here. There's nothing viable for them to stay and rear the cubs. Whereas in the female, it is an instinctive, passed on genetic feeling that she wants to reproduce. So when she comes into estrus and she finally has cubs, it's like I'm sure it is, like a fulfilling feeling for her. But for males, holding territory and having multiple litters is what they are worried about. Having their genetics or their genetic value as much as possible within a certain ecosystem, a given ecosystem, like Tswalu, for example. So they don't really have the urge to stick around and look after cubs. It's really not a want for them, let's say that. They've got other things on their mind, patrolling, and then obviously prey, and then looking for mates. You do have some species across the board, like fish can be very, very devoted parents. Lions protect their cubs. But as with these guys, not so much. You can see her breathing rate has slowed down a bit now. She looks good. When she was on top of the dune, I took a good look with the binoculars, and she looks in tip-top condition. Obviously, going on these hunts, there's always a potential chance that she could get injured. So her coming back and still being in great condition is just a very sure sign that she is on the right track. And we're very impressed. Minami, why do cheetah have a higher mortality rate in comparison to other cats? So if you look at lions, they've got the social dynamics. They're also larger. So weapons and weight definitely do play a vital role when it comes to protecting little ones. With cheetah, unfortunately, she has got no weapons. She's got no weight behind her. She's got no big teeth, large sharp claws. So unfortunately, their cubs do fall victim to predation, and it's quite a high percentage as well. Here in this area, it would be at about 50% of cubs would, make it to their first year. But some places can be as high as 70%, and that's obviously a counteract why cheetah have such large litters, is to counteract that high mortality rate. And they are just exposed and vulnerable. I mean, it's one mom, trying to protect and provide enough for all these little ones. So, unfortunately, it is as it is, where if you had 4 or 5 cheetah, your mortality rate might be a bit low because you have more backing, you have more power and more strength on your side. As in with a female cheetah like this, if a lion had a rush in here, she would run. She would obviously try and keep tabs on all the little ones, but along the lines, somebody's going to get hurt. Yeah, but in this area, I know, in the Kalahari, in the southern Kalahari, it's 50% that don't make it to their first year. I think it's the first, their 8th, their 8th month. So it's very, very high. All right, we're going to send you to another location. We'll be here.
So on our venture, we managed to find ourselves a herd of elephants. This is just the one right at the back. We think this one's a young male. But I mean, already you can see slightly taller than the one we saw earlier. Oh, there we go. So that's the rest of the herd inside there. You can see the one feeding. If you look just under its belly there, you can see another one walking. It was a little baby, but they were a little bit nervous and actually moved off quite quickly inside here. But you can see this big one close to us, as we said, young male. He's been very relaxed, just feeding as he goes, making use of this cooler weather, now that the sun's set, making use of that, covering some ground, feeding as much as they can. Really enjoying this. And you think these guys are going to be up the entire night. It's the exact opposite to the lion. The male lions sleep 16, 18 hours a day. These elephants are awake 18, 20 hours a day. Crazy. Like a big animal. See how wide it is at the top there, the spine area. huge. But they spend the majority of their time walking, feeding, moving, drinking, just trying to sustain that size, that bulk. And when you see still feeding, it actually looks like, quite far, but it looks like it's feeding from a thorn tree. The tree has been pushed over fairly recently. Can't see exactly what kind of thorn tree. But the thorns, very, very, very little effect on the actual elephant. And they got very, very thick skin, especially on their trunk. Very thick. They can grab the leaves. And they can feed very, very easily. Inside their mouths, massive, massive teeth. They got 4 teeth. And, and just crunch through anything, pulverize anything they eat. Sometimes they do get a few bugs, although they are sort of vegetarian. They're just eating the grass and the leaves and roots and sort of thing. They might every now and then get something, on a leaf, maybe a chameleon, that they unknowingly pick up off a branch, little bugs that they will just carry on chewing. Every now and then you might find a bit of flesh in their dung. And most of the time it's just sticks, fruits, marula fruit, seeds, pips, things like that. It's amazing how quickly they disappear. Have a look now there. Gone. Nothing. Pretty cool how they do that. I'm going to keep quiet and just listen. You can't hear anything either.
Welcome back. It's now bath time. Get the little ones clean. Give mom some love. Wow. So just touching on that really good question that was asked earlier. So vegetation is a big thing that would play into a cheetah's favor or not. And then as well as she's by herself. So being solitary, you're at a higher risk of obviously predation, especially on young ones like this. And then when she leaves, these little guys are flying solo. So if you take a look at the Serengeti, obviously sparse cover 70%. That is how high the mortality rate is in the Serengeti. Here it is 50%. Obviously with a little bit more cover, they have a better chance of escaping predators. And so this is a reason or a belief on why cheetahs have such large litters. They can have anywhere from 1 to 9. It's usually 3 to 5. And they also have litters a lot quicker. And that's a theory on why they do that is because they're trying to counteract the high predation rate. And I mean, if you look at a cheetah, it's not built to defend. I mean, I've walked on cheetah a few times and they run. They don't stand around and try and defend. They'll rather flee than fight. Sorry, I get a little bit wrapped up sometimes and I throw information out there and it's not really structured in a conducive and digestible manner. So I hope that was a bit better. Wow. Susie, absolutely. Cheetahs are more successful in certain areas. That would be, if you take a look at the area that they're in, what other predators are there. I mean, I've even read of accounts where secretary birds would kill cubs. That's how vulnerable they are. So what predators you would have in the area, how large the area would be, and as well as the vegetative structure. So those all being factors, either pros or cons, with the success rate of these little ones. But a really nice question, yeah. Vegetation and cover is a very important thing for animals, especially when you have little ones like this. Incredible, eh? Glenn is smiling ear to ear. I think I should take a selfie with him with his big smile. because this is just too precious. So that mantle of hair, that silver mantle that you're seeing there perfectly right now, that would have started emerging about 14 days after born, and they will start losing that almost entirely at about 3 months. It starts to fall out and then becomes obviously less and less visible as we go on from that point of 3 months. But really aiding them in a bit of, helping them out in a little bit while mom leaves them out here. Because look how that little one blends in with the grass. How this white little piece of hair is basically masking and covering that little animal into that vegetation. A nature lover, can they climb trees to hide? They won't necessarily climb a tree to hide. If mom wasn't here, and if I had to approach those little ones, they would opt for the option of rather running away. If you go into a tree, you are then sitting duck. They do climb trees, especially at this, adventurous stage. They climb trees as much as they can. But evading a predator, they would rather opt to run away instead of climbing a tree. Climbing a tree, you're really stuck in the water. You're there. So it'll be a little bit of a gamble if you had to jump into a tree. Oh, tired. Really nice question there, nature lover. Thank you. Really good question. Just stop there, Glenn. Look at the little one on the left now. Look how its coloration is perfect. All you can see is just its little nose. Hello. And nature is just incredible. So they've got a little bit of milk in their tummies, and hopefully we can have a few minutes of play. That would be really nice, but regardless, just seeing them like this is still a treat. We're going to hold out here. We're going to send you off to another safari location.
We found a chameleon. Thank goodness they didn't run away from me this afternoon. So glad to see this little thing. Gosh, I love chameleons so much. And I neglected to take into account how difficult it is to find mushrooms in the darkness. So we're just going to have to wait till I return to see spores kind of just oozing out of the mushrooms in the darkness. But I guess that will be better because it'll be wetter when I come back. Are you enjoying being in the limelight, flap-necked chameleon? You certainly are. This is a really nice sized one. As you can see, quite bushy. This was a difficult one to spot, but we did find it. Now BK is going to try and do something amazing just for me. Let's see if he's able to do it. Mars is looking amazing in the sky this afternoon. Everyone's saying a birthday chameleon? I believe so. I do. Look at Mars. Isn't that just spectacular? I think it's about the closest to Earth it can be. So it does. It looks amazing, doesn't it? Absolutely amazing. Well, as you know, this is my, James, and BK's last drive for a little while, but we will be back. And we would like to say thank you all for listening to us, for dealing with our antics, and in BK's case, just dealing with his spectacular camera work. So thank you very much for that, guys. But we will still chat about our chameleon, if BK can find him again. Everyone's asking if it's Fernando. It's not Fernando. Fernando has left his Gwari bush at Twin Dams Road. And my theory is that, do you remember that we saw that chameleon that had the two black eyes? My theory is that Fernando is just going around beating up chameleons because they're taking away from his airtime on the show. That's just my suggestion. Of course, I could be 100% wrong, and I am 100% wrong, but I'd like to think that that's how he's grown in confidence after being exposed to all you viewers in the world since being on the show. So this is a brand new chameleon. It's here on Zoe's Road. I love them so much. I couldn't be happy with the last minute chameleon. Well, you know, we've had some great sightings together, some great experiences together. Got to chat about so many things, and thank you all for wishing us well when we're off. We appreciate it so much. I'm going to leave you with a few seconds of the wonderful sounds of the bush, the cicadas, the crickets. Fiery-necked nightjar in the background, Scops owl. This is the wonderful bush, your safari, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon. Thank you for your questions and your comments. Bye for now.
Hi, my name is Taylor McCurdy, and I'm coming to you from Eco Training here on Pridelands. My most favorite animal in Africa has to be the elephant that's behind me, and this is Kumo. You'll meet him. But elephants just in general, they're really sociable. They're always doing something, and I love to see the interactions between the members of the herd. To learn more about these elephants, join me on channel 1.